the Blast from Our Past Network.
Imagine being one of the last people on Earth, being trapped alone with something not human, something always watching, something always waiting. What would you do? Where would you run? Where would you hide if you were haunted for 7 winters alone?
Podcasting After Dark presents 7 Winters Alone, a dystopian haunted house story by David Irons.
Available now in paperback and ebook.
Lock your doors, close your windows, turn out your lights, for chills and thrills await you. It's time for Podcasting After Dark with your hosts, Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer. Stay with a friend, say your prayers as grisly ghouls close in to seal your doom.
Tonight's episode, Deadly Force, starring Wings Hauser, Joyce Ingalls, and Paul Shenar.
You wanted more, you're going to get more right here, right now on Podcasting After Dark. It's me. It's one half of the pad team, Zach. You know what's coming tonight. It's going to be another full frontal dose of Wings. But before we get to any of that, I want to introduce my beautiful, bodacious co-host, Corey. I'm just going to say, how you doing?
Take Wings Hauser and put him on a pedestal so high. And when he sings Neon Slime, you know you're in store for a good time.
Wow, that is beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thanks, buddy. I workshopped that one all day. I couldn't quite get the last verse to end correctly, but I think I got something there, something that we can sort of build off of. But yeah, dude, I am beyond excited to dive back into the world of Wings Hauser.
Yes, tonight we are going to be discussing 1983's Deadly Force, which could quite possibly be Wings' best film that we will cover here on Podcasting After Dark. If not his best, clearly the most bonkers in the best way. We will get to all that good stuff in a minute, but yes, Wings Hauser is back on Podcasting after a little bit of a hiatus. We're recording this in the end of February of 2022, but we started doing Wings. We started doing Wings back in well over a year ago.
Yeah.
Actually, I feel like it was around the same time last year, that we covered Wings. And we've run the gamut with Wings. We've done Wings as a pimp. We've done Wings as a redneck ass kicker. We've done Wings as I think that's it so far. Oh, sorry. We've done Dad Wings. Dad Wings in 315. Very brief cameo.
Is the redneck ass kicker, is that Mutant or is that LA Bounty? Which one's that one?
That's Mutant. And then we've done the Wings drug dealer in LA Bounty.
There you go.
We've gone like Bad Wings, Good Wings. Bad Wings, and now we're back to Good Wings again with Deadly Force.
Yes.
Deadly Force was supposed to be a vehicle. Corey will go into a little bit more. It was supposed to be a vehicle for Wings to kind of take off, kind of like a launching pad for his action film career. Didn't become that, sadly enough, but I think everyone involved in this movie was hoping that the name Stoney Cooper would be synonymous as Dirty Harry, Charlie Bronson's character in Death Wish, like an all-around badass kind of dude. Sadly, it did not, and we have Deadly Force, and that's it. But Corey, really quick, you have zero connection to this movie up until maybe watching it a couple days ago, right?
Correct. What is your connection? I assume it has to be much more than mine.
I saw it on TV as a kid, I believe, fully edited, like maybe, during the day, like on channel 36 in the Bay Area on like a 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I think I saw bits and pieces of it. Never saw the whole thing, but saw the video box for decades, right, at the video store. Never having any interest back then wanting to rent this movie. But something, the birth of my love of Wings started probably because of Podcasting After Dark, because of my deep dive into so many amazing cult movies that we've done over the years, and just a greater appreciation for certain actors that maybe I kind of dismissed back in the day. Wings is somebody that back then I was like, man, I'm not really into him, right? Now I look at him, I'm like, yeah, I'm really into him, clearly, because
yeah.
Spoiler alert, there's about 2 or 3 more Wings movies coming down the pipe.
That's fantastic.
So,
that's awesome in my book.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it. And like I said on our Instagram, Corey had, kind of previewed that we were going to break this movie down. And I wrote on the Instagram, I said, look, this may not be one of the most memorable movies for our larger audience. However, everyone listening, do yourself a favor. Don't rent. Don't get it at your library. Don't get it on VHS. Just go out and buy the Blu-ray, the Shout Factory Blu-ray, because it is worth it. This movie, you'll hear in our breakdown as we go along. It's one wild ride. So strap yourself in.
Yeah, I'm not going to mince words here. I love this movie. So like Zach said, no experience with it whatsoever. I recognize the cover, but that was it. I'm kind of like you, Zach. I think we were similar in the fact that when we were younger, both of us kind of dismissed Wings, and I think we've discussed it many a times, but a lot of times when we were younger, we wanted things to be more realistic and everything. And now I want things to be more fun and zany. And famously, I talked about wanting to watch L.A. Bounty and how I didn't know that he was not a cop in Vice Squad. I didn't know he was a pimp. I thought he was a cop in that. I thought he was a cop in L.A. Bounty. Deadly Force is literally the movie that I've been waiting for this entire Wings venture. It's literally the one I wanted. And I didn't know it because I'd never seen it, never seen hide nor hair of it outside of the cover, the movie cover. But watching it, I was like, oh, this is it. This is the Wings I've been wanting. Not to say that I didn't enjoy the other Wings, but this is what I honestly thought Vice Squad and LA Bounty was supposed to be. This was it. Like Wings being some kind of either an avenging angel or a cop type of thing. So this is everything that I want it to be. And then on top of it, it is so much fun. And in such good ways too, not just because it's silly or stupid, but because there's actually really good acting in it. All the supporting cast is fantastic in this film. Everything about this movie is just amazing, whether it's crazy shootout at the end or just some really good acting that's just doesn't need to be that good in a movie like this. This movie is T to B awesome. I echo your sentiment. Go buy the Shout Factory Blu-ray. Sadly, it's extremely bare bones, but I think that there's just nothing else out there to put on the disc. But it is worth it, and it's a damn good time. And if you've never seen it, well, you'll enjoy our breakdown, and we're going to have fun with it, but it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah, totally agree. I think... like Corey said, the disc is bare bones, and much of our backstory discussion will be bare bones outside of the cast and crew, which is a shame, which is really a shame. At the time of this recording, I think we're a month or so after the fact that somebody announced on Instagram that they're making a Wings Hauser documentary. So the Wings is still very much alive. That was the other reason why I wanted to do Wings, to remind everybody that this guy's alive. And who knows? I mean, I would love it if whoever is involved in that documentary listens to one of our Wings breakdowns and understands that we love this guy as an actor, as a performer, as cheeseball or zany as his movies are. And there's moments in this movie we're going to break down that are pure cinema cheeseball gold.
Yeah.
Just gold.
Gold, baby,
like
gold.
GIF worthy.
Yeah.
Just like, or GIF worthy or whatever. Just so great. But we're going to get to all that. I just want to say at the top of the program, or at the top of the show, when I said, "How you doing?" he said that's Wings pretty much through this entire movie every time he sees somebody new.
Yes.
So you can do a "How you doing?" count starting once we start breaking down this movie. Maybe 5 minutes into the breakdown, you're going to get a "How you doing?" count coming. So just get ready for that.
You can also do a count on how many times you see his twig and berries, and we'll talk about that too when we get to the bathtub shootout scene.
Oh, if you've ever wanted to see Wings Hauser's taint, this is your movie.
Yep. They definitely, when they filmed this movie, they did not envision a world with HD and 62-inch TVs, because if they did, I think they would have cut that scene a little bit differently. But we have it. We have it, and it's gold. You know what? I'm going to say this
gold.
once, but it's going to be applicable. It's gold, Jerry. Gold.
Yeah, please. You can say it all through this whole thing. Every time we get to a scene that you think is amazing, please say it.
No, I won't go full Kenny Banya on this one from Seinfeld, but I will say it that one time.
I just want to say the brief like IMDb synopsis of this says, Stoney Cooper, a former Los Angeles police officer, is at a low point in his life. Kicked off the force because of his anti-authority attitude, he now ekes out a living as a freelancer in New York. All this changes when the daughter of an old friend is killed by a serial killer terrorizing L.A. Although almost nobody in his old hometown is happy to see him back, Cooper pledges to bring the killer to justice before any more innocent people die.
So why didn't they call him a bounty hunter? Because it seems like he's a bounty hunter in this.
He is. I think he's more of a got a job for me, I'll take anything you got, versus a bounty hunter.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and he doesn't. Yeah, because he doesn't really chase. Bounty hunters chase down the people who skip bail and everything. Yeah, he's technically not a bounty hunter, but he's more of like a Star Wars style bounty hunter.
Yeah, he's a Star Wars. You know, he's a simple guy. He dribbles a soccer ball, and he likes to say terrific all the time and great. So for no reason. And the tagline of the poster says, "When the cops won't and the courts can't, Stoney Cooper will give you justice. Deadly force. When nothing else will do."
It's a great
when you've
poster.
exhausted. Great poster. I know. I would love to have a giant thing of that on my wall, but Femme French might be a little frustrated by that. She might go, "Nah, that's not gonna look so great." I'm just gonna say it's so funny. Like it's basically saying he's your last. When you've exhausted every other possibility, then call up Wings Hauser.
Stoney Cooper. Oh man, what a name though! What a great fucking name.
Offline, Corey and I were talking about how the writer of this film. Well, I think he was. Was it Robert O'Neill?
It's interesting. It took 3 people to write this movie, but Robert Vincent O'Neill. I talked to Zach offline because I wanted to call out the fact that he also wrote Angel, 1983's Angel, a movie that is near and dear to our pal David Irons. And I immediately when I saw that, I immediately thought of David. I was like, I bet he loves it.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a great one. And I think it's Barry Schneider, right? Was it Barry? Well, which one is who did Vice Squad?
Oh, so and then the connection to Vice Squad is so the one bit of information, behind the scenes information on this movie. The producer, Sandy Howard, worked on Vice Squad. I think produced Vice Squad as well. And they were so enamored with Wings Hauser that they literally tried to find a vehicle for him. They came up with this, and they wanted this to be a Dirty Harry style series. And I don't know why that didn't happen. I don't know what the marketing problem with this movie was. Sadly, I don't know, if something didn't happen with the production of it and they didn't make it in the theaters or not like wide release or something, because this has everything that I think makes up a great action movie. I'll probably elaborate more on at the end, but him shooting the car and having the car blow up, I would actually maybe redo that and make it a bit more less of a a nicely wrapped up bow at the very end. But other than that, this movie is, I think, totally open for a sequel. I think, or a prequel. Hell, you could go either direction with it. And hell, you could make a prequel to it nowadays and why don't you cast his son, Cole Hauser, to play Stoney Cooper. But yeah, so they wanted this to be a series, an ongoing style series, action series, and it didn't really happen that way. And I don't think Deadly Force let down Wings Hauser. I think the world let down Deadly Force.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I've heard, they're all rumors, of course, but I've heard that Wings is some of the movies that he did. One in particular, Tough Guys Don't Dance. I have the Blu-ray of that, and on the backstory, Wings is interviewed for it as well. He's got an edge to him, and can maybe be difficult at times, and possibly there's some other issues that were going on, which maybe led to a little bit of erratic behavior.
Yeah.
I don't want to speculate. I just want to leave it at that.
Yeah.
But I will say that this movie has such colorful, easy to identify characters that could be on a series, could be, like you said, not even a movie series, but a TV series. This would have been a great pilot for a television series, a television series on Cinemax, because of the some of the graphic nature of this film.
Yeah,
but which is great for Pad for sure. But some of the other writers of this, because like you said, this has 3 writers. One of them is Barry Schneider. Barry Schneider. He wrote the screenplay for Class of 1984. Obviously one of our favorites.
Yeah.
Take This Job and Shove It.
Oh, wow.
Roller Boogie, and just to name a few. So that's already a few notable films. Ken Barnett was one of the other writers. He did a story for another movie, but this is basically his only screenplay he ever wrote. So it makes sense that this had 3 writers, because at times it feels like there's almost 3 separate stories going on. There's Stoney with the pimp, or the Stoney with, Ashley. There's Stoney with his wife, and then there's Stoney with the ex-killer.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe that's why. But nevertheless, it fires on all cylinders, in my opinion. Director Paul Aaron actually did some really cool movies in the 80s. He did Morgan Stewart's Coming Home with John Cryer. And if you've never seen that one, I highly, highly recommend it. John Cryer is a huge horror fan in that movie. So he's got like posters like Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead on his wall. And I haven't seen it in a while now, but it's a really, really fun, underrated John Cryer movie. Highly recommend that one.
Okay, yeah, Morgan Stewart's Coming Home. I actually recognize the poster for it. I never saw it, but I recognize the poster.
Oh, that Corey, put that on your, definitely on your to-do list.
Okay.
Along with That Was Then, This Is Now.
Okay,
but, yeah.
Cool.
Morgan Stewart's Coming Home is a fun 80s romantic comedy. But he also directed Force of One, a Chuck Norris movie, which I love, with our boy Clu Gulager. And Ron O'Neal, who plays Superfly, Superfly. And he was in Red Dawn as well.
Oh, very cool.
And Jennifer O'Neill of Scanners fame was in Force of One. Highly recommend Force of One as a Chuck Norris movie if you're down for watching a Chuck Norris movie. But fuck all that. We're not talking about Chuck Norris right now. We're talking about Deadly Force. Let's get to the cast. Wings Hauser plays Stoney Cooper. You know who Wings is. You love Wings. You gotta love your hot wings.
Of course.
Joyce. Now, this is a portion. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say now the rest of the cast has unfortunately passed away. It seems.
I was just gonna say this is the part of the podcast that we're gonna depress the hell out of you.
Yeah,
because
kick in the in
next
memoriam.
5 or 6 actors are dull.
Yeah, kick in the in memoriam music now.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, Joyce Ingalls, she plays Eddie Cooper, Ed. I love that. Any chick with a quote unquote man's name, I dig. Like Larry in Fletch. I love your body, Larry.
And honestly, I loved it too. I love the name Eddie for a woman, and short, just calling her Ed. I thought that was very interesting.
She died in 2015.
Yeah.
At the age of 65. Not a lot of screen credits to her name.
No.
She looks a lot like what's her face from Conan the Barbarian.
You just took it right out of my brain.
Sandal Bergman.
I'm with you, man. She had a very strong Sandal Bergman vibe to her.
Yeah, which I really like.
Yeah, I'm not gonna complain. I thought she was great.
Yeah. Less Wings butt and more her butt.
Yes, please.
There you go. Please. Paul Shenar, Paul Shenar, yeah. He plays Joshua, Mr. Joshua Adams. And he actually has a really great resume. He was in Scarface. He was a voice in The Secret of Nim. He was in Raw Deal. I remember him, though, from this movie called The Big Blue, directed by Luc Besson from 1988. Great diving movie with Jean Reno and Rosanna Arquette and Griffin Dunn.
Oh, very cool. Beautiful
film. If you want it's beautifully shot. It was one of my evening go to bed movies.
Nice. And I just saw his his little bit of write up on IMDb, and it says attractive, dark featured character actor with a voice like thunder. And I'm like, you know what? He does have a pretty amazing voice. I am surprised he didn't do more voice work.
Yeah, no doubt. The guy is really commanding on screen.
He is. That's actually a great term for him. Yeah, he's commanding.
And if you look up his IMDb, if you want to have a little Paul Shenar night, you won't be disappointed. He was in a movie called Man on Fire, which was actually remade with Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
The original was with Scott Glenn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Another not fun, but another cool movie.
I love both versions of Man on Fire. I probably kind of prefer the Denzel one, but I still love that trope. I love the person that will go to hell and back and die doing the right thing to save somebody. I just think that's such a cool story.
Yeah, no doubt. Samesies. Same. Hashtag same. He unfortunately died in 1989 at the age of 53.
Damn.
Next actor, Al Ruscio. He plays Sam.
Oh, he was awesome as Sam. I love him so much in this movie.
So good. This guy is another actor who has a really long resume of films. Everything from The Phantom with our boy Billy Zane, Jagged Edge, which is a great 80s thriller with Jane Fonda and Jeff Bridges, and Showgirls.
So
there you go. He died unfortunately in 2013 at the age of 89.
Yeah.
Next death? No, actually the guy who's alive, one guy who's alive is Arlen Dean Snyder. He plays Ashley Maynard. I only know him from the movie Heartbreak Ridge with Clint Eastwood. He plays Eastwood's buddy in that movie. Great Eastwood, tough as nails film.
Okay. Looks like he was in an episode of Hunter too. Oh, and he was in he was in Marked for Death. He was Duvall in Marked for Death.
Isn't Marked for Death the one with the Jamaican voodoo group or something?
Yeah, Screwface.
He's still alive, by the way.
Yeah.
Still alive. Someone who's not is Lincoln Kilpatrick. He plays Captain Hoxley.
And we saw him in prison.
There you go. He was in prison. And he was in Fortress, another prison movie, futuristic prison movie.
Mm-hmm. Who was he in prison, though? The prison movie. And when we say prison, we're referring to the Rennie Harlan movie. We covered it back in season 1. But who was he in that, though?
He was one of the main characters. He was the one who
that's right.
He got shot. Did he get shot in the foot? I think he got shot in the foot. But he knew what happened to Viggo Mortensen's, like the ghost character.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And unfortunately, he died in 2004 at the age of 72. Next death.
It's
I'm not
funny.
guys,
We're not
I'm
laughing.
not.
We're not making fun of it. It's amazing. It's remarkable.
Most people are dead in this, so there you go.
Yeah.
Bud Ekins. Bud Ekins is a stuntman who's been in a ton of movies, ton of mainstream movies. Blues Brothers, The Specialist, National Lampoon's Animal House, The Next Karate Kid. But he was in. He plays Harvey Benton, and he's missing 2 fingers on his hand.
Oh, is he so he plays the killer? Okay, he's the 2-fingered killer guy, and he's really missing 2 fingers, right?
I think so.
Yeah. That
That's
makes
creepy.
That makes sense that he was a stuntman.
I want to talk about 3 more people, and then that's it. And then that are worth noting. Really quick, an actor named Paul Benjamin. He plays Lester. He shows up at the 3rd act of the movie at the very end. He plays the husband of a character who gets killed, and he's got an amazing resume as well. Everything from Midnight Cowboy to, I remember him from Escape from New York and Do the Right Thing.
Oh wow. And he was in The Shield too. I mean, yeah, he worked for a long time. He passed away in 2019 at the age of 81, which damn good run for him. But yeah, I recognized him, but I didn't know where I recognized him from.
Yeah, but he's a very memorable actor for sure.
Yeah.
2 more I'm going to notice, or 2 more I'll note, and then maybe I'll see if Corey can guess the last one I'm going to bring up, or maybe he'll bring it up, or him or her. J. Victor Lopez plays Diego, aka Dayglow. Yeah. And he has a very small role in this film. He plays a cameraman to Eddie, who is a reporter. But I looked at him, and as soon as he popped up on screen, I'm like, holy shit, he's from Megaforce.
That's awesome. He plays Lopez in Megaforce.
Yep. Great character actor. But yeah, anyways, I was going to bring up this other one. I don't know if it's really that important because honestly, she's only on screen for maybe 2 minutes. But Corey, do you know who I'm thinking of? There's somebody else in there.
Yeah, there was a girl. There's a girl in this movie. She might be golden. There's a golden girl in this fucking movie, and Estelle Getty. She plays a cab driver, and the first time I watched it without looking it up on IMDb, you could just hear immediately, and I'm like, oh my god, that's Estelle Getty. Like, what the fuck? And yeah, she's not in it that much, but also, and I'm sure you recognized him, at the very beginning, the guy who's playing the rat game is Ned Eisenberg, who we saw in The Burning, and he literally has 1 second of screen time. And I'm like, oh my god, that's a known actor, and he's, or at least we know him now, but I'm like, he has 1 second of screen time, and it's fantastic. But yeah, Estelle Getty, she actually has a really good scene and is a lot of fun, so I'd loved seeing her in this, man.
Yeah, she's great in it. It's unfortunate about the actor from The Burning. I feel like it's one of those cases of well, he looks way older than he probably was, and he's losing his hair, and hard to get a job. The reality of Hollywood is it really kind of sucks. So, but yeah, Estelle Getty's great in just this little cameo, and you think, holy shit, that's a score. But you know what is a score is this freaking movie. And actually, the score of this movie is a score.
Yes,
I just want to point that out really quick.
The closing song and the song they play on the menu screen on the Blu-ray is so fucking good, dude. It's no Neon Slime, but what is, but it's still damn good. And I actually thought Wings was singing it, and I watched the credits all the way to the end, and he's not, or it's not being performed by him, it said. I was like, damn, it's a great song, though.
It is a great song. But the score of the movie is by Gary Scott, who looks like he did a lot of music for the TV show Fame, which that's pretty badass. Yeah. So
and this has a nice. Yeah. It's got a fun synthwave score. This movie, and it has a couple song tracks that are great, the original songs that are great. But the synthwave score itself is actually pretty fucking fantastic.
And of course, the love scene song is terrible, but in a good way.
Yes, exactly.
So but I'm ready for some wings. Are you ready for some wings? Extra hot wings?
Fuck yeah, baby. Let's do it.
Wings Hauser is Stoney Cooper. You don't call him in.
Terrific.
You turn him loose.
I don't carry a badge anymore. And I deliver.
Johnny, no, we're not gonna make it!
We're gonna make it!
When the cops can't, and the courts won't, he'll give you justice. Deadly Force, when nothing else will do. Rated R.
Starts next Friday at a theater near you. Check newspapers for showtimes.
All right, Deadly Force opens with the Killer Embassy logo.
Yeah.
The good old days of 80s movie logos. God damn, I love them. Okay, this is going to be a little bit of a trip down memory lane for people that live in Los Angeles or have ever been to Los Angeles.
Or used to live in Los Angeles for 15 years. Yeah, dude, one thing I absolutely love about this movie is seeing Santa Monica and downtown LA, and I will, 1983, circa 1983, and I will elaborate more on that as we get to different spots that, I don't know, I used to live at or around, so it's very exciting.
Totally. Well, this opens on a shot of sunny Santa Monica in the beach, in the coastal apartment, high-rise apartment. There is a woman who's waking from her bed. Her alarm goes off, and she is listening to the news reports. The news is playing, and there's shots of Los Angeles, and it shows her getting ready. The news report says there's no new suspects in the ekes murder case. 15 related homicides in the past 9 weeks. However, this is the 13th straight day of quiet. You're like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
15 murders.
That's...
this is the 13th day of quiet.
Yeah, and this is one of those times where subtitles definitely help, because I spent the first, 20 minutes of the movie thinking they were calling him the axe murderer, but it's the ekes murderer. It didn't take anything away, but I was just confused as to why he never used an axe when I saw him.
Where's his axe? Damn it! Yeah, and I love this, and this is straight up, typical morning news, because the reporter's giving this really dark story, and then there's a pause. 13th straight day of quiet. Pause. It's a busy Wednesday morning on the freeways.
Yeah, and then they give a SIG alert. And I'm like, SIG alerts. Yep, that's LA. LA.
You during this whole news kind of radio rant, the woman she's showering. When she's showering, I'm like, that looks like Lizzie from the Warriors, by the way. It looks like one of the Lizzies from the Warriors. It could have been, actually. I didn't track who she was.
Well, it's kind of moot because she'll be dead in T-minus 30 seconds.
Yes. She goes out to her balcony to look at the Pacific Ocean from Santa Monica. And then you see a hand kind of peeking out through the blinds of the sliding door with only 3 fucking fingers, by the way.
Yeah.
The pinky and middle are cut off. And then suddenly the hands grab the woman, and you see kind of blood splatter on the curtains. And then she gets thrown off the balcony, covered in blood.
In a great stunt. I mean, somebody goes flying right there, and what a way to die. Obviously, this has shades of Lethal Weapon, the beginning of Lethal Weapon. Nice. Although she wasn't pushed, she just sort of did her swan dive on her own. But this kind of reminds me of that in a little bit of ways, because there too in Lethal Weapon, her dad calls in Danny Glover, right? To kind of figure that one out. And I think that was Atkins or somebody, wasn't it, in Lethal Weapon?
Yeah, Tom Atkins.
Yeah.
And this has a Mr. Joshua in it, so there you go.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So yeah, there's definitely shades of Lethal Weapon, but this is before Lethal Weapon?
Yeah. Well, I mean, potentially, who knows? Shane Black might have written this. No, Lethal Weapon came out in 86, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, Lethal Weapon was 1987. So
87.
You know what? I'm gonna say Shane Black saw Deadly Force. Honestly,
I'm gonna say he did too. I love 80s Shane Black,
of course,
and 90s, and a little bit of 2000s.
Sure.
He's very hit or miss in his recent career. To be honest with you, but. Yeah, I'm going to say this was a heavy influence on Lethal Weapon.
I think so, dude. Truly.
Yeah, there you go.
And he'll be like, nobody will know because this movie was nothing. Deadly Force was nothing, so no one's ever going to remember that movie. Well, and for the most part, that's true, but we are going to I'm going to champion this movie till the day I die.
Thank you. Thank you. I will take full credit for that championship.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, take full credit for Wings and everybody else's hard work on this movie.
I will.
Take all the
goddamn it,
credit.
I'm bringing it back. Well, Shout Factory, shout out to Shout Factory. They're the ones who released a bunch of Wings Hauser movies on Blue, and all the boutique companies who recently have released Wings Hauser movies. Thank you guys for doing that. So,
yeah.
So from there, she gets off the balcony, fades to black. Then you open up on the next scene of it's in New York. There's a rat on like a spinning wheel with a bunch of holes in it, and a bunch of dudes are sitting around gambling on the street trying to figure out which hole the rat is going to go into on the spinning wheel.
Spoiler alert, the rat goes to whatever hole he gets pointed at when he gets planted on there. Did you notice that? Yes. This is when Ned Eisenberg is there, and he's the one that kind of puts the rat down, but the rat doesn't move. He puts the rat facing in a direction, and the rat goes in a straight line to whatever that number was. And I was like, well, that's not a game of chance at all.
No, but you know who does win that game? It's Stoney. Stoney wins.
That's right.
Our boy.
Why wasn't he playing like what's it called, craps or something, or dice? Like, why this elaborate rat game?
I don't know, but this okay. Not only does he,
all you want to do is talk about the soccer ball. That's all you want to do.
Of course I do.
I know.
All I know is he wins. He gets paged, and he leaves the game with his soccer ball.
Do you think he's kicking the soccer ball like you would a soccer ball, Zach?
No.
No.
He dribbles it like a fucking basketball down the street.
He does.
And this is not the first time he uses a soccer ball like a basketball. It's going to only get worse.
I know. It's not even the same soccer ball either.
No. Or is it? No, that's probably not.
Well, this one's covered in poop as it goes down the street, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So he's walking down the street of someplace in New York, and he walks past a woman who says, and he says, "How you doing?"
Yeah.
And she gives him this look like, "Who the fuck you talking to?"
Yeah, and he kind of taps her on the behind a little bit. And I was like, "That's talk." Come on, man.
He walks past another guy who looks totally annoyed to look at him, and he goes to a payphone and he calls which I'm assuming is his answering service.
I guess.
And he calls he says, "Juliet, this is Romeo." And as he's getting his messages from Juliet, his soccer ball falls out of his arms and it falls into the street, and he watches it. There's a clear shot of the ball rolling into the street under a car, then back to his expression on his face looking very downtrodden.
Yeah, no, he is completely crestfallen when he sees that, because I don't know if you noticed, I rewound it. It falls into like some shit or something first, like literal shit, and then it rolls under a cab car, and the camera pans back to him, and he's just so crestfallen about it. Like, he's so sad because he's not getting it back. He's like, I'm not getting that back. I'm gonna need to buy another soccer ball.
No, I think he went and got it back. I think he brought it with him to LA.
And he took it with him to LA. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
In his fucking bowling ball bag. So okay, so yeah, he gets the messages from Juliet. She tells him that his wife called and wants him to sign divorce papers. And his buddy Sam Goodwin called from LA, says it's an emergency. From there, you cut to Stoney at a bar playing a piano, getting drunk, which I'm assuming is like in the morning.
Yeah.
It feels like it's in the morning.
And he's wearing a tuxedo.
He's wearing a fucking black... I asked my wife, I'm like, is she wearing a tuxedo? And she's like, I think it's just a black suit. And like, it's a black suit, but with suspenders. Like, yeah. he has a look. It's his, you can tell. And I only know that because I own, and I should take a picture of it. I own the Wings Hauser's vinyl album, Wings Living Right, when he was known as Wings Living Right from the 70s. And he's got suspenders on the front cover of that as well. He likes his suspenders.
Okay. Wings Living Right. God.
Yes.
God bless that man. God bless him. Jesus. So then I almost was like, was he actually playing? Because the bar,
I think so.
The bar was like they were cleaning up it looks like there was a band also cleaning up. So I was wondering if he was actually singing that night at the bar or something.
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, why not, right? Sure.
And I'm going to say that he can play piano.
Yeah.
Because I think he does on that album.
Well, he's obviously musically inclined. I mean, he sings and everything, so I wouldn't be surprised if he can actually play the piano.
Yeah, the guy is really talented.
Yeah.
He's just such a unique personality. I think that's why we love him so much.
Yeah.
He's friends with the bartender. The bartender's name is Harry. And the bartender's like, where are you heading to this time, Stoney? And he's like, I got to fly to L.A. 5 hours into thin air, Harry. And you can tell, and he says he hates flying, right? So that's another kind of character quirk about Stoney. He doesn't like to fly.
Yeah, but I was also like scratching my head. I was like, is it really 5 hours from New York to L.A.? I guess if you're taking a direct flight, I mean, that's pretty fast, though.
It used to, well, I don't think it is now. If you think about it, back in the day when we didn't have so much delays and whatnot, I bet you it takes about 5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it is.
Okay.
So phone rings. Harry picks up the phone, says it's for Stoney. It's a guy named Sal. He says he's got a job for him. And Stoney says, tell him I'm on a plane. And Harry says, he says he's on a plane. And then he says, he's not hanging up. And so finally Stoney walks over drunk because he's been doing shots all night, I'm assuming, picks up the phone. And then Sal, who's this guy on the other end, tells Stoney he's got a Puerto Rican revolutionary wrapped up in dynamite in his machinery, ready to go boom in any second. Stoney tells him to call the cops or the bomb squad, and he's like, with what I got in that warehouse, after they arrest him, they'll arrest me. And Stoney's like, I'm on my way to the airport. And Stoney says, Sal says, look, I'll give you, for 20 minutes, I'll give you 20,000 cash, okay? And suddenly Stoney raises his eyebrows. From there, you cut to the next scene of him, Stoney, getting with like cool rock music playing. He's leaving the bar and he's getting in a cab. Oh, money? Sure. Okay, I'll do it. So he hails
20 grand for 20 minutes worth of work, of course.
In 1983?
And this is 1983 money, so that, guys and gals, with inflation and everything, is probably around $35K today. That's a lot of fucking money.
That's, wow, you're a math guy, huh?
Well, it's like almost doubled, but you pull back a little bit. But, and it's funny, I only know this because of a lot of discussions I've had with Adam on Cartwright about like how much things cost on Seinfeld, and that was like, mid 90s. And so we looked it up at one point, And so, yeah, I think we can safely say that 20K back then was about 35-ish nowadays.
Gotcha. Well, okay, well, there you go.
And if you like Seinfeld, go listen to Cartwright a Seinfeld podcast.
Please, plug away. Plug me. So he hails a cab. The details in this movie are everything. He hails a cab. He's got his tuxedo on. We're going to call it a tux just because it sounds funnier. He's got his bag. Which I'm assuming has a soccer ball in it. And he's got a garment bag. Hails a cab, throws the soccer ball bag on top of the cab, and he goes, right on time, beautiful. You're fucking sexist too, Stoney.
Well, but he knows her. Doesn't he know her?
He does know her, yeah. But he's a macho guy.
So I almost wondered if he actually called the cab company and requested her, like, particularly, because she seems to be up to his speed with, like, doing U-turns and hanging bitches in the street and everything and almost running people over, and whatnot. But they seem to have a rapport.
They do, and I feel like if this was a series, she would be a regular in the series.
And dude, once you said that, I mean, we read about it wanting to be a movie series, but I almost think this feels like you said, like a pilot to like a very gritty like TV series. Because all these people, all these side characters are so well like casted and so well fleshed out in their minuscule screen time that you're like, yeah, I actually want to see more of the Estelle Getty cab driver. I want there to be a relationship between him and her, and she be his cab driver, driving him around and stuff like that. Like,
I love
that's
that.
cool,
Yeah.
man. Like, that's some cool ass fucking shit right there.
Yeah, and then you could do, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, and she could be like the character from that movie, all badass and, and old and whatever. Yeah, so the Golden Girl herself, Estelle Getty, picks him up. I want to point out the fact, too, he gets in the cab, and the bag, the soccer ball bag, is still on top of the cab, and the cab drives off, and he reaches his hand out to grab the bag, almost loses the bag, but he saves it, so...
Yeah.
Nice job, Stoney.
And that's actually Wings Hauser doing it. Dude, Wings Hauser does a lot of his own stunts in this movie. And I don't know if that's, probably budget constraints and all that stuff, but he does a lot of his own stuff in this that I think nowadays you would never see any, like, the actor actually do. I think I called it out in the Mutant episode where he actually climbs the fence in his cowboy boots, and I was like, you would never have like an actual actor nowadays do that because they could fall. And then here, later on, he climbs over like a fence that has like spikes on it with his cowboy boots, and I'm like, and it's all wings, and you're just like, that they would never do that nowadays.
Wings all day.
All day, baby.
So he gets in the cab, and yeah, it's Estelle Getty, and she's like, so hotshot, another flight, huh? And then Stoney's like taking his shirt off and he's changing his clothes. And she's like, hey, you want to see my 11th grandson? And she like throws these photos at him, like 100 fucking photos in one of those photo rolls. I'm like, Jesus, how many photos does she have of her grandson?
Yeah.
And she's telling him like the name or whatever. And as he's changing, she goes, so you going home for a little schmanky panky with the ex-wife? And Stoney says, not ex-wife, we're temporarily disengaged.
Which is an important piece of dialogue because it does. Stoney, he definitely still wants to be with his wife, and you can sort of tell.
Yeah, totally. And as she's like questioning him, he's putting on a bulletproof vest, and she goes, so what's in LA if it's not the ex-wife? And Stoney says, well, there's some maniac out there. Son of a bitch threw my friend's granddaughter off a 7-story balcony. And they say New York is crazy. Ba-dum-boom. She says that.
And this whole time, like a car almost cuts her off, and she's immediately like, you want to go to heaven? Like she's going to kill the person. And I was like, yeah, she's great. I love Estelle Getty. Like
so
seriously,
great.
she's in this movie for a minute and a half. Well, like weirdly, the scene's a little bit longer, but she's kind of only featured for like a minute and a half, but she lights up the screen in that time.
So great. And I wish she would have lasted just a little bit longer, like actually driving the cab when they get to Sal's, because it's clearly a dude driving the car as he flips a bitch, and it's total 80s. I love it because it's like it's like a guy. She's like this little, older woman, and he's like this older beefy dude driving the cab. It's really funny. Anyways, the cab pulls up. Almost hits a guy when she pulls over.
It's what he did. She's like, she hangs a bitch and almost runs a guy over. Like, for realsies.
You're right. Shows up at Sal's place, and Sal's yelling at Stoney. He's like, what took you so long? That my place could be ashes by now. Sal says to Stoney, he's like, are you sober? And Stoney goes, I'm like a rock, Sal. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
I don't know.
I mean, I know what it means, but it's like kind of a stupid line.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Trust us, guys. Whenever we say something is like stupid or silly, it's all in a good way. I'm so glad they did do that.
Oh yeah, almost to the point where like everything they do just makes the movie better. If it's silly, it just makes the movie fucking better.
Yeah. As they're walking, Sal and Stoney are walking towards Sal's warehouse, and Stoney says, what's the guy's name, Sal? And Sal's like, how should I know? Chuco, Paco, Groucho? What are they picking on me for? They walk towards the warehouse, and Stoney like sneaks into the warehouse. And when he gets in there, you can hear the bomber guy. He's like overhead in this warehouse in like a cherry picker thing that moves back and forth throughout the warehouse on a conveyor belt.
Yeah, it's like one of those internal cranes that are kind of like attached to the ceiling or something.
Yeah, and he's screaming something in Spanish. And then while he's screaming something in Spanish, he'll say stuff in English too. And he's like, come on, Sal, you chicken shit, you big fat son of a bitch. I'm going to blow your shit to hell. So as this guy is ranting, this bomber, Stoney like throws something like a rock or something to distract him, the sound. So he looks one way, and Stoney climbs up into the rafters of the warehouse. And he eventually climbs on top of the like crane conveyor thingy, and he hops on silently.
He's very
While the
nimble with his cowboy boots, by the way.
I'm impressed. I mean, the
Yeah.
guy can move.
Yeah.
And you know, Wings is a big dude. The guy
Yes.
looks like he's like 6'2" or something.
Yeah, he does. He looks like a tall dude.
And while the bomber's screaming, Stoney like surprises him and jumps into the booth with him and pulls a gun right on him. And so the bomber has his bomb strapped to his chest, and he's ready to like push the ignition switch.
The
And
plunger,
Stoney's
he's got one of those plunger things, yeah.
a Japanese plunger.
Which, yeah, it comes into play.
You'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Stoney's got his 45 on him. And I will call out the fact that it's a 45 because he uses this same gun pretty much throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, and
It's
that's
like his signature.
I love that gun, by the way. It's the Shadows gun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good stuff. It's our second Billy Zane shout out for the night.
No, that was the Phantom. Well, it's actually the same. Phantom used the same guns as the Shadow. So
Phantom and
You know
Shadow
what? I'll
both
say.
use that.
You know what? That's the Phantom's gun. Now it's actually a Billy Zane reference.
Yeah. And there you go.
And not an Alec Baldwin reference.
God. So Stoney says, I'd say it looks like a Mexican standoff. And the guy goes, I'm Puerto Rican, man. And this is real dynamite. And then Stoney goes, well, I'm French, German, and Italian. And this is a real gun.
Yeah.
So the bomber asks why Stoney's looking at, the bomber's like looking at Stoney. He's like, what you looking at, man? And Stoney says, is that a Japanese plunger? And the bomber says, so what? And Stoney says, well, we're in a lot of trouble. I've seen one of those go off in a hostage situation, accidentally blew some guy's butt to Brooklyn and his mind to Cuba. You know what I'm saying? And the bomber goes, so what, man? And now he's looking kind of terrified at this point, like, oh shit. Because you can tell the guy doesn't want to blow himself up.
No.
Stoney tries to convince him not to blow himself up. And the bomber reveals that Sal was doing his old lady. He was doing my old lady, man. He's like, I got my pride. No, I'm going to blow this place up. And the bomber starts to starts the crow's nest at that point. I'll call it the crow's nest, wasn't moving back and forth throughout the warehouse, but then he pushes start and starts moving it again. And Stoney says, how about I blow your balls off? And he shoots at the ground in front of the bomber. And the bomber's like, and then the bomber's now scared. And Stoney says, dying is one thing, but pain is a whole other subject. And Stoney puts the gun away.
Now, real quick, I'm only cutting you off because this is where, did you notice that when the crane moves, it's like a different film stock? So everything looks processed before that. The crane moves, and this whole exchange with him shooting the floor is a different film stock. He stops the crane, then it cuts back to Wings, where he basically it's the processed film stock, and he kind of puts the gun away. And I realize Shout Factory must have put this little, I don't know, 20-second, 30-second little part back in, because if you extract this little part here, it basically goes from the guy saying he was banging his wife to Wings Hauser putting the gun away. It actually makes Wings Hauser seem a bit more sympathetic to the guy if you cut this little part out with him shooting the ground. But this is the only part in the movie that I noticed that the film stock changed like that. So we don't know, because there's nothing on this Blu-ray to tell you about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if this 30-second little part wasn't in the original, cut, but it was always intended to be, and they did their Shout Factory thing and actually found it. But you can tell how it could have been edited together without the little movement part in between. And like I said, it does make Wings seem a bit nicer, a bit sweeter, because he doesn't shoot the ground like that, and that might be why they cut it out originally. But they definitely put it back in for this Blu-ray, you can tell.
I actually feel like there's quite a few scenes in this movie where that happens.
Okay.
So I feel like, later on when he gets to LA and then gets jumped by Ashley's two thugs, there's a scene that kind of looks like that. So I'm wondering if Shout Factory just pieced everything together.
Yeah.
And maybe this is quote unquote like a director's cut, so to speak.
Yeah, or the process stuff was like the theatrical cut, and this is technically the director's cut or something like that. But yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know, it wasn't as apparent for me later on, but I definitely noticed the change in the film stock here. Not film stock, but how it's processed.
The
and
quality,
everything. The quality
for
of
sure.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's important. It's an important scene because I wrote, and at that, after he puts his gun away, he wipes his Coke nose because I'm like, oh, what are you wiping your nose for, Stoney? But Stoney says, look, I'm sorry Sal's doing your wife, but he's paying me to take you out of here, whether you're breathing or not. And he makes a deal with the bomber. He's like, look, I'll give you $2,000 if you walk out with me. And the bomber says, 10,000. And Stoney goes, 4. And then the bomber goes, 7. And then Stoney pulls the gun on him again. And then the bomber goes, okay, make it a flat 5. And Stoney cocks the gun on him. He's like, okay, man, make it 4.
And then like Wings like, how much? And he's like, 4. How much, motherfucker? And I was like, wow,
So
Wings
funny.
is like, I need my money, motherfucker.
I love it. And the bomber finally takes his hand off the plunger. Stoney's like looking all crazy. He's like, hell of a way to start your morning. And he goes, what's your name, man? And the guy goes, Antonio. And they make their way out. And as they're making their way out, like there's a crowd already outside of Sal's, and they're cheering for this guy. And the guy has his fist up in the air like he just got freed from Attica or something. And Stoney's walking out with Antonio up to Sal. Sal gives Stoney the money. Then he gives the $4,000, I'm assuming, to Antonio. And he says, quesadilla, amigo.
I was like, would you notice like Antonio comes like strutting out too, like and everything?
That's what I'm
like,
saying.
Yeah.
He has like his fist in the air, like Attica, like I'm the man.
Yeah, you know,
see what I did, man.
But it's great. And then Sal's like, oh, you're supposed to deliver him or something like that. And he's like, you said deliver him, but not like diffuse him or something.
Yeah, because he's like, he's still wired.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, yeah, you told me, you paid me to get him out, not diffuse him. I'm on a plane.
Yeah, and he fucking gets in Estelle Getty's cab. Although she's not there anymore, like you don't see the actress Estelle Getty. But I will say this, dude. I settled in for my first viewing of this movie, smoking my bowl, having a good time. Because I always do my first viewings, my funsies viewing. And already, we're only 10 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
A great kill at the beginning, throwing the girl out of the window. Fucking seeing Ned Eisenberg for 1 second. Seeing Estelle Getty. And then, to top it all off, this whole scene with Antonio, this is where I realized all the secondary actors in this movie are outstanding. The guy who plays Antonio is great. Like, he's has so much emotion on his face. Guys and gals, this is a late night fucking Cinemax action movie, and everybody in this movie, including Wings Hauser, is giving it their all. And I was like, dude, I was literally like, after this scene, I just smoke a bowl and I just sit up because I'm like, okay, this movie's something that I'm supposed to be like really be paying attention to here, because people are putting in some work and it's coming off the screen, and I love it. And right away I knew this movie was special and it was different. Yeah.
Again, we want to spotlight these lesser known movies by a guy who forgotten about as well. So let's praise the shit out of the whole thing.
Fuck yeah.
It's worth it.
Hey everybody, Corey here. I just wanted to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
Hey everybody, I'm Tim.
And I'm Dean.
And we're the hosts of Talking Back. We're a retro-based podcast covering movies, comics, video games, and more.
Check us out every Monday, where we hit the rewind button and dig into some of our favorite content from the past. We like to keep things fun, lighthearted, and informative.
Do you feel like you need more nostalgia in your life? Then check out Talking Back. We're available everywhere podcasts are found.
Hello everybody, I'm Adam.
I'm John.
And every week we are giving you a blast from our past.
We are the podcast that brings you full-on movie breakdowns, TV show reviews, album reviews, top 10s, and more, all from the things of our nostalgic past.
So please join us every single week on the Blast from Our Past podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. However you listen to podcasts, you can find us, and we would love to have you take a trip with us to the land of nostalgia.
And now, back to the show.
From there, you cut to a generic, well, it's like Trans-America plane landing in Los Angeles. And you cut to the arrival terminal, which up until maybe 10 years ago pretty much looked the same in LAX.
Yeah.
And Sam, who we don't know who Sam is yet, but it's Sam walking down the terminal towards the escalator. And as he's walking up the stairs next to the escalator, Stoney's coming down, and they meet each other there. And Sam asks how the flight was, and Stoney goes, "Oh, terrifying," because remember, he hates planes.
Yeah.
Right? And so they get down, they give each other kind of a hug, and I love this moment because Stoney's like, how you doing? Because again, Sam is the guy whose granddaughter was killed, Beverly. That's her name. And he's like, I'm doing okay. He's like, how you doing? And then he's like, I'm keeping it together. And you can see Sam starting to get like really emotional. And it's a really sweet moment because these guys love each other. They've been buddies probably for a long time. And Stoney's going to kick some ass to figure out who the fuck did this.
Yeah, and this little scene comes right after I realize that this movie is something special, and then Sam is the nail in the good coffin, because I was just like, there's so much emotion at play in this little scene, and it's not overly done. It's done the most perfect amount of emotion. It's guy's emotion, but Wings is like, Stoney's like, are you okay? He's like, yeah. Sam's like, I'm fine. He's like, no, but are you okay? And Sam's like, it's good. It's better than it has any right to be. And I'm just going to sing Sam's praises now, but just know that he's fantastic throughout the entire movie. And there's so much. Wings is fun and zany, but all the characters around him and Sam, there's a lot of like, that's where the emotional anchors are for this movie. And it's very real emotion. It's not like movie big emotions. It's like subtle real emotion, because Sam's not crying, but he's definitely, you can tell he's about to. And that ain't hard. That ain't easy to do, So I'm not going to jerk him off for the rest of the movie, but Sam's my favorite fucking character in the entire film.
Wow, that's a bold thing to say.
He's awesome.
Well, again, when you've got quality actors in a B-level movie, it really elevates the film itself. So that actor, again, Al Ruscio, great actor. And his character got me thinking of, oftentimes in action movies, if it's, if they're buddies, if it's a buddy cop movie or a buddy action movie, it's two guys playing off each other and they're equals. Tango and Cash, Lethal Weapon, et cetera, et cetera. But when there's a supporting buddy, like a side character in a one-man kind of movie, that side character often stands out, or should stand out. A good one stands out. As I'm watching this, I'm like, it would be cool to do another watch list. I haven't done a watch list in a while. Maybe like a top 5 underrated buddies. Not like, again, Tango and Cash, Lethal Weapon, where they're equals, but somebody lesser. I was thinking of Robert Romanus in The Resurrected. He makes that movie, in my opinion, he elevates that movie because of his little side character. It's a small character, like that small character that makes the movie that much better, right? Versus
like Billy Cole in Fright Night.
Exactly. Yeah. So the buddy, the sidekick, the side sidekick.
Yeah.
Not again. Yeah. I was thinking of L.A. Confidential and Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce. They're equals.
They're more equal.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying here. Yeah. The Sam to the Wings Hauser. Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. That would be a fun watch list. I would definitely do that one with you, buddy.
As they're walking out of the terminal, they pass a cop, and the cop radios on his little walkie that he radios for Captain Huxley, because some shit's gonna go down. Sam and Stoney are in Sam's car, and they're talking about Sam's granddaughter, and Sam says, 16 people this creep kills, and Stoney asks, what's the LAPD got so far? And Sam says, nothing. They got nothing. This freak kills anything. Men, women, kids, old ladies, dogs, garbage bags. I'm adding the last two because he doesn't. But it's funny. I'm like, keep going, please, keep going. I would have loved it if it just got totally politically incorrect. And I'm not even going to say, but you guys all know where they could have gone with this.
Yeah, of course.
And then Sam says the reward is $250,000, $250,000, right? And Sam says Beverly was the best. Ever since Stoney left, she was the reason he kept himself straight, Sam, right?
Yeah.
Because he's an ex-con, spoiler alert. Right after that, suddenly a cop zooms down the road in front of them as they're driving down what is like basically the PCH is right next to Highway 1 is right next to LAX, and they're driving down that, and they get pulled over by the cops. This dude gets out of the cop car. It's Lopez.
Oh, Lopez.
And I love this because Stoney goes, "Welcome to LA," right?
Like he knows
Cop
what's
gets
happened.
out. Stoney gets out, and he turns Stoney against the car, starts frisking him. Again, Stoney goes, "How you doing, Lopez?" That's number 2. And Lopez pulls the .45 out of Stoney's pants, and he's like, "You got a license for this?" He's like, "Of course I do. Sure." And then Sam starts to get out of the car, and Lopez yells, "Lockpick, who told you to get out?"
Yeah, and you know, it's funny, the first time I watch it, I didn't quite pick up on things like that, but you know, a second viewing, you're like, oh, okay, because he's the lockpick guy, and that's why he's calling him lockpick, yada, yada, yada. I like how, I love movies like this where you're coming in, like, you know, with so much history, and they're not explaining the history, but you have to sort of pick it up as you go along, and they're not going to explain it to you. But yeah, I dig that. I love how he just calls him lockpick.
Yeah, and then Lopez says, "You still hanging out with old cons?" Which is, you know, again, and you go, "Oh, okay, I'm putting 2 and 2 together." So from there, Lopez takes Stoney over to his car, and who's in the car but Captain Hawksley? But Stoney goes, "Lieutenant Hawksley," right? Hawksley goes, "Captain Hawksley." He goes, "Oh, congratulations," essentially.
Yeah, I'm very proud. He's like, "I'm very happy for you." But yeah, Hawksley does not give a shit about Wings.
He does not give a shit. And he's like, "Why are you back here?" And Stoney's like, "I'm here on a condolence call." And then Hawksley goes, "Well, the day I took your badge was the last time I wanted to see your face." And he goes, "We do things strictly by procedure. The day you, and then Stoney goes, "The day you took my badge was the day I stopped playing your system." Like, oh. And I'm like, which system?
Yeah, and now we get an idea of what the backstory is, but we never know it completely, which I like. Again, that's something I think is great.
True, yeah. Hawksley says, you know, "Do not get involved in this investigation." But he lets him go. Stoney goes back to the car. Captain Hawksley alerts all cops that Stoney... I tracked this that he said Stoney Jackson is back in town.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm gonna have to go back, because there was a couple times where I'm like, I think they got some of the dialogue wrong, but whatever. Again, with the subtitles, and thank God there was a few times where I'm like, I don't think he really said that. But anyways, the cops drive off, and Hawksley says he's after the ex-murderer. He's after the ex-murderer reward. Stay on him.
And that's when I was like, oh, is he a bounty hunter now? But he's not technically a bounty hunter, but yeah,
He's
sort of.
Technically not.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Oh, you know what I thought of? The movie Wanted Dead or Alive with Rutger Hauer, which is based on the TV. And I think Robert Guillaume is like his buddy, you know?
Yeah.
And Benson, right? And he's like not his equal. He's his buddy in the movie. That's another good one, too.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I saw that movie when I was a kid. I remember the poster. I remember the cover for that, too.
Gene Simmons is a like Iranian terrorist.
Yeah. Gene Simmons had a run for a bit.
He did. Never Too Young to Die, Runaway, and Wanted Dead or Alive.
Yeah, Runaway. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah,
I love Runaway.
Oh yeah, I know.
Oh god damn, it's a good one. Okay, anyways, Stoney tells Sam to take him to Spring Street. Sam says, "I thought you were bunking with me," and then Sam says, "Eddie says she don't want you no more." And then Sam's like, "You should call her." And Stoney says, "I'm not calling my own wife." And then Sam goes, "That was your problem from the beginning, Stoney. If you got a good woman, you got to treat her like a queen." And as they're driving, this is all like dialogue in the car as they're driving to downtown LA. And he's like, "You got to treat her like a queen, right?" And he goes, "Like my wife, Harriet, rest in peace. Women want a life of their own, Stoney."
And Stoney goes,
says, "Well, so do men."
So do men. I'm like, come on, guy. Men have had their run for so long. Let your wife have her life, God damn it.
I think they should do this movie again and keep the original dialogue, you know, a la Psycho, even though that movie was not good. But like the dialogue is so dated.
Yeah. Like, especially later, where he tells her he's gonna break her arm if she doesn't come over here.
Well,
I was like, that's problematic. We'll talk about that when we get there.
There's so many great problematic, what does he say later? He's like, either help me or leave.
Some
We're
of the
getting
dialogue
there.
is
That's at the end.
Yeah, it's definitely a problematic and of its time.
Yes. So from there, you cut to Stoney getting dropped off at this big high-rise warehouse loft building.
Yeah, so I gotta cut in. First off, he said she lives on Spring Street, and I think this was also Stoney's place back in the day as well. So as you all know,
they were married. Yeah,
they were married, and as you all know, I used to live on 6th and Spring, which is right in downtown LA, and this didn't quite look familiar to me, but it could have been further down Spring Street or something. But that loft place that she lives is exactly like the studio. Like, if you just took out the walls and everything, it's exactly how the studio looked that I worked at in downtown LA, and that was on Hill in Washington, right across the street from the courthouse in downtown LA. But all those places down there, and I used to live down there, I used to go party at people's houses and stuff, or their condos, their lofts and everything. And all the architecture down there looks like that, with those vaulted ceilings, and you can see the sprinklers up there. But it's cool when people actually turn them into living spaces. They have a very unique look. It's a very unique downtown LA look. I love seeing these downtown LA apartments. I think they're amazing. But this one was probably the one that looks the most like the studio I used to work in.
So for everybody, who's going to go on the Corey Stevenson tour later this year, Corey used to live there.
Yeah. So if you live in downtown and if you're ever in it, on 6th and Spring, I lived in Premier Towers, and then go down on Washington and Hill, like right on the corner of Washington and Hill. If the courthouse is behind you, we were in the building to the right across the street from the McDonald's.
Nice.
There you go.
When McDonald's was a thing.
Yeah,
so.
that's the McDonald's. That's the McDonald's that I saw a homeless lady at 4 a.m. take a crap under the light post, just on the street under the lit light post, not in the dark, in broad light. I was like, huh. And that's also when I lived in the studio too, because I was homeless for a bit. Guys and gals, trying to make it in LA ain't easy at all.
I think that this was probably similar, maybe the same building they filmed Vice Squad in, like the finale of Vice Squad, and also potentially Savage Streets.
Oh yeah,
a lot of movies probably were filmed down there. But and I think Trancers for sure, like you were saying earlier. But I also, the unfortunate thing that there's not a whole lot of info. Even if you go to Wikipedia, there's nothing on this movie. So we're gonna just kind of world build on our own.
Yeah,
backstory stuff.
Sure. Yeah, but it's a fucking amazing loft, by the way.
It's a great loft, and Stoney just drops in. He's got a key. It's his place that he shared with his wife, I guess. He goes in the place, and there's a dude sitting. The dude from Lopez from Megaforce is sitting at the table, and talking to Eddie, who's making breakfast. And the guy's drinking a Diet Coke for breakfast, which I thought was kind of funny. They're just having small talk. Stoney sneaks in, and he starts playing this piano by Diego, and scares him. And Eddie thinks it's Diego playing because she's in the kitchen. She's like, "Please don't do that," or something to that effect.
It reminds me of my husband. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she starts walking out, and she gets surprised by Stoney as well. And Stoney goes, "You kept the Bossendorfer. That's great, Ed." And then it's so fucking funny because I'm like, Bossendorfer. It feels like a Fletch line. That's another thing too. This is like a hard-nosed version of Fletch to me in some ways.
Yeah. I can see it. I can see that.
It'll be a great double feature: Fletch and Deadly Force. Diego at this point feels awkward. He wants to leave, and Ed tells Diego to stay. And Stoney calls him Dayglow.
Yeah. Is that racist? Is that a racist thing to say? Is he being racist right there?
I think it's maybe meant to be like a put down, but I don't know if it's racist.
Yeah.
But it's not a. I think it's a put down.
Okay.
And Stoney introduces himself as Eddie's husband. And Eddie goes, not anymore. And Diego's like, I'm going to go. I'll talk to you later, Edwina. And you're like, oh, Edwina. Okay. And you realize that he's a cameraman at the TV station and Eddie's, the news reporter there.
Yeah. At first I thought it was like he was her boyfriend or something, but yeah, he's not.
And it's great. They set it up that way.
Yeah.
And it's clearly not. Part of me was like, and this is like, neither here nor there. I'm like, oh, I think Diego's like her gay friend.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. Like they're buddies, right?
Yeah, they're work buddies, but they're also, probably regular buddies too.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And so he leaves. Ed wants Stoney to leave, but he doesn't. And they have small talk. And he's like, you look great, Ed. You lose weight?
God, that's such an asshole thing to say.
And she's like, why don't you sign the divorce papers? And he doesn't. And he responds with, so, hi, how are you? How are you doing? Like, fuck off, dude. You're an asshole. And she tells him that she's been promoted, and she's now a reporter. And she asks, like, why he's here. And he goes, I came here to see how my old enemies are doing.
So how are you doing?
Yeah. Number 3.
But it was more like, I love that. He was like, I'm here to see how my old enemies are doing. And then like, there's that beat pause. And then he's like, so how are you doing? Like, meaning her. Like that was,
yeah.
I was like, I kind of liked that little bit of a jab right there.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm not your enemy. Anyway, you came back for the X murders.
Yeah.
Like, it's so
not
fun. This
the
back and
axe
forth
murderers.
Yeah.
Like I thought.
So Eddie knows that Sam's granddaughter was one of the ones that's been murdered.
And I like how she's like, I tried to call him, like, because she knows Sam too. And later on, you get the sense that, she knows Sam probably as well as, Stoney does.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's like, look, it's been 18 months since I've seen you. I like my life. You just can't walk in and take over. And, you're not super cop anymore. And she's like, I can't go another 10 rounds, Stoney. Stoney's just totally dismissing everything she's saying. And he's like, oh, you fixed the place up. And she wants him to go. And then he notices like a blackboard on one side of the loft with like a bulletin board next to it with all the victims, pictures of the victims, photos, etc. And then he's like, you got any leads? And she's like, oh, no, it's all random. It's so funny because she's like 1 minute wanting to kick him the hell out, but he just keeps pushing. He just keeps like, trying to get her to like kind of skirt over the fact that he's just showed up out of nowhere. And she's like, it's all random. Knives, ice picks, strangulation, masturbation. No, I added that last part. And Ed doesn't, she's like, she doesn't want to help Stoney at all. And Stoney's like, this is for Sam, not for me. So Stoney leaves after that. He's leaving the lofts and he goes to get in a car with Sam. But as he's walking towards the car, he gets jumped from behind by 2 thugs. 2 thugs pull up from behind him in like a sedan or whatever.
And it's awesome because in the passenger seat, like or the passenger side, the thug opens, like while the car's moving, opens the door and like takes out Wings' legs. So like he falls
really
down.
hard.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit. And again, it's definitely Wings Hauser that's going down,
Yeah, Wings goes down hard and it's legit. And the dude starts beating the shit out of him, right? This big dude. And then Sam runs out, sees what's happening, gets out of the car with like a tire iron to run over and help him. But the dude pulls Stoney's gun and points it at Sam. So Sam just stands there.
But I like how Sam was ready to go to his aid, though.
Yeah, he's got his back. He's got his back, but I don't blame him either. It's like, you got a gun, he's going to kill you, right?
Yeah, of course. No. I mean, I don't blame Sam for stopping with the gun in his face, but it's cool that he was going to go help,
Yeah. And then this guy who's got like 30 seconds of a scene is really funny. So the dude who just beat the shit out of Stoney slams Stoney into the window of the car. The window's down. So he's looking at the driver, and the driver's like, Mr. Ashley would like you to be a nice guy. Get on a nice airplane and go back to the nice Big Apple. And then the dude pulls Stoney out of the car, slams him against a wall, and points the gun at Sam. And then he takes out the clip from the gun, and he throws the clip and the gun in a trash bin that's right next to them. and the dude that beat up Stoney and the driver, they get in, they take off and leave. Sam checks on Stoney. He's like, he goes, "You want to throw up?" And Stoney goes, "Yeah. No, where's my gun?"
No, but I like that. I like how like he's doubled over because he got punched in the gut, and you know I like how Sam's like, "You want to throw up?" And he's like, "Yeah," you know, he's about to, but he kind of gains his composure. He's like, "No, I'm fine," you know.
So
but
funny.
It's a cool little piece of dialogue that didn't have to be in there.
Yeah, and there's like, you know, small little moments that could have been cut, but they don't. Like Sam goes and gets the gun out of the dumpster for him. Which is,
and they're and the great thing is these small moments are so very human. You know, like he's not our indestructible hero. Like he got punched in the stomach. He might throw up. Like I actually kind of wish that he did. Like that would have been fucking cool, to be honest. I think back in '83, that probably would have been a bit too much for us to sort of like for audiences to take with like an action hero. But I think nowadays that would have been something that would have been different and more realistic to actually see him throw up after that exchange.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, because you know Sam's like, "What was that all about? You know, who are those guys?" And Stoney's like, "There's a slight difference of opinion between me and their boss. I'll take care of it." And then cue like that rad music. Yeah. And then from there it cut to the nighttime, and Stoney and Sam arrive at some dude's house. Sam's like, "You want me to go with you? Or you want me to pick a lock?" And Stoney goes, "No, you stay you go park the car and wait for me. It'll take about 10 minutes. And he sneaks into this house, hops the fence, like you were saying earlier, hops this big wrought iron fence, right?
With his cowboy boots on.
Every time I see these fences, I'm like, is that OJ's house in Brentwood? I don't know why. This house kind of reminds me of it, actually. And hops in, starts sneaking around this house. And he's like in the backyard, like a Japanese kind of garden. And the dude that beat him up earlier spots Stoney. Stoney pulls his gun on him and tells him to get back. And the guy like kind of freezes. And another dude comes up from behind to take down Stoney. Stoney beats the shit out of that guy.
Yeah, he does.
And then goes over to the guy who beat him up earlier and proceeds to kick the shit out of that guy too. Yeah. And to the point where the guy is actually whining. He's like,
well, and the thing is, the one thing I love though is the way Wings fights in this movie is the William Shatner School of Fighting. Sadly, we don't get the double hammer fist, but what we get in this fight scene is when he throws the guy down, he does the back fist to the butt, like to the lower back. I mean, it's a lot of Wings flailing his arms about and very clearly like missing his stomps and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, you know, but I think I just think that it's more of a sign of the times. And I think nowadays, you know, we're just so used to such a high caliber of stunt action, like some John Wick shit, you know what I mean? That like this old way of Hollywood fighting is long gone, but I very much enjoy seeing it in this movie.
I do too, and what I love about it is that it's almost like the director was like, look, Stoney is invincible when he has the upper hand.
Right.
No one can beat Stoney when he has the upper hand. And because when he does have the upper hand, he decimates everybody that he fights, like destroys them.
Yeah.
It's really fucking funny because you're like, holy shit, this guy's like a one-man murdering machine. Could be. So this is interesting, and I'm curious to get your take on this. So Stoney, after he kicks the shit out of these guys, he hops up on the roof of this multiple story build house. I'm assuming it's like a 2-story, right? Well, I'm assuming it's 3 based on what happens in just a moment. He gets up on the roof of the first story and walks in a little window, sneaks in with his gun drawn. He's got his gun drawn. He walks in through like the laundry room, and suddenly he's in a kitchen, which is on the 2nd floor. I think that was supposed to be on the 1st floor.
Yeah. I think maybe just the the layout was a little bit wonky. I tracked it that he was on the first floor, but I know what you mean. He does hop up something.
He goes up on the roof.
Yeah.
And hops through a window.
It's a rich house. There's different levels. I don't know. But
I'm like, is this a mother-in-law quarters?
But that's true. That's actually might be an idea because he does bump into somebody.
Yeah, so he's got his gun drawn and he's like, stalking in the house, sneaking in. And there's a little old lady sitting in this kitchen like a little breakfast nook. And he walks by her and he points the gun at her and then he realizes that it's a little old lady. So he pulls the gun up. Without even flinching, she
pulls it up like as in sort of like hides it. He doesn't like aim it at her. He kind of like moves it sort of behind the wall-ish or the doorway-ish for a minute, and then once she starts rambling, he says fuck it and pulls it out. But
yeah, because I think she sees the gun, but she doesn't flinch, and she's like, "Oh, hello, young man. You must be looking for my boy. He's upstairs, first door on your right." And I'm like, "Is this the fucking kitchen?" And okay, I'm like, whatever. And she goes, "But I'm not sure he's alone. But I guess it's all right. I'm alone a great deal. When we lived in Albuquerque, I wasn't always alone." And Wings is
Stoney's just like at this point, because at first he's like listening, then he's like, you can tell he's like, oh, she's senile. Okay, I'm out. I'm gone. I'm not even gonna give her any more thought.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit. It's so funny because the
away.
expression on his face is like, oh God, I can just fuck it. I'm here for business.
Yeah.
So he walks off. Cut to a porno.
Yeah.
A porno. Two chicks.
Two chicks.
And there is a very large-breasted woman laying in bed with a undergarment that is clearly not big enough to hold her bosoms.
Her bosoms. That woman has bosoms. They are huge.
Yeah. So she's watching the porno while eating popcorn.
Yeah. Yeah. All of this tracks.
Yeah. Stoney comes into the bedroom, and kind of kneels down next to her, and she goes, "Oh, are you a friend of Ashley's?"
Well, hold on. He kneels next to her, but he kind of puts the gun sort of in her face, but not. He's not aiming it at her.
Yeah.
It's like, but he's aiming it at Ashley next to her, so she sees it. But I mean, she is not at all shocked or surprised.
No, and she goes, "Oh, friend of Ashley's?" And he goes, "Intimately." She goes, "You want me to wake him, sugar?" And so Ashley's asleep next to her, who we're about to be introduced to, the guy from Heartbreak Ridge, by the way. And she tries to wake him. And he like barks at her. He's like, "God damn it, leave me alone. Watch your friggin' movie." Jesus, the way women get treated in this is not very kindly.
No.
And then so Stoney comes around to the other side of the bed where Ashley's laying, and he points the gun at Ashley, and he whispers, he like makes a kissing sound, like, and he goes, "Pussy, honey." "Pussy, honey." And then Ashley opens his eyes and doesn't flinch.
No.
Ashley just looks at him.
Fucking Diesel. He doesn't give any fucks about Stoney's gun in his face.
BDE. And he just simply looks at Stoney and goes, "You're dead. Don't bother me." And he closes his eyes.
He's about to go back to sleep.
And Stoney says, "I got a favor to ask of you." And they start going back and forth. And Stoney's like, "Look, I want you out of my face for 3 weeks." Ashley's now pissed and like he's coming to his senses, and he starts rambling about, "I spent 20 months on what you call a bust." So I feel like maybe he was allegedly set up by Stoney, perhaps. And Stoney's like, I love this dialogue because it's kind of like juicy. He goes, I need some noise on this ex-killer. I get the killer and we split the reward." And then suddenly you cut to the chick and she's like shushing them. She's like, "Shh, I'm trying to watch my movie." She doesn't say that, but you get that sense. And Ashley's like, "Every cop is looking for him." And he says, "Hoxley's going to run for mayor on this bust. You get in his way, he'll bury you dick deep in elephant shit."
I love that line.
I love that. And Stoney's like, "I'll deliver." And Ashley says, "I'll give you 2 weeks." And then Stoney like tucks him into bed and goes nighty night.
And he's like, actually, like, fuck off, you know.
And then this is great. Stoney walks to the other side of the bed, and like right before he leaves, he turns around and he starts watching the porno.
Yeah, and he goes, oh,
hold on.
gay."
He takes some popcorn first.
Yeah, he
from
takes
the bowl. He starts eating the popcorn. And then what does he say?
And he looks at the two women who've been making out this entire time. He goes, "Oh, they're gay." It's like,
Yeah.
okay. And then she's
and
like,
then she goes, "Whatever turns you on,
"Whatever
baby."
turns you on, baby," you know.
And then Stoney goes, "Right. Good night."
And you know, it's funny. I swear, and I don't think it's in it, but I don't know. But I swear to God, my first viewing, Ashley said goodnight back to him or something. I don't know, but like, I love this whole exchange. I love that Ashley goes back to sleep. He doesn't give any fucks whatsoever.
Well, he rolls onto the memories of the woman.
Yeah, he does. After Wings leaves, he fucking nuzzles up against those pillows. But he was awesome. Again, another character who's not in it very much. He'll be in it a little bit more later, but still another character who's amazing in like the 2-3 minutes that they're actually in the movie. And I like the setup here. I like the setup how he, Stoney just isn't coming into the house to like kill him or anything. He's like, look, fucking just lay off me for 2 or 3 weeks and we'll split the reward money together. You know, like that's a pretty good deal for Ashley.
Yeah, I get the sense that, Stoney was one of those cops who's like, I'll get the job done at any cost. He dealt with shady people, bribing people probably, trying to get info on stuff. So Ashley and him go way back. Ashley's pissed that he had to go to prison for something that Stoney busted him on and wants revenge, and Stoney's like, look, I'll pay you off. And we'll make a deal out of it. We'll be friends again. Yeah. So it makes sense. Totally tracks.
And it tracks too, because like that's how he resolved the bomb situation earlier. Was he pay somebody? Here he's just paying people to get out of his way. I like that. I thought that was a very practical solution.
It is. It's great. So from here, Stoney's now back with Sam, and Sam he tells Sam they're driving in L.A. and like Hollywood area, and Sam he tells Sam that he's got to find out whatever he can on these victims. Who's banging who's important, junkies. We need a lot of cocks, Sam. I'm like, what the fuck? And he's like, promise him anything, promise him money, deals, bribe him, whatever.
And then cue the montage.
The first of like 2 or 3 montages in this movie. Yeah. Cue the montage of Sam and Stoney trying to get info on people. It's hilarious.
And you know as well as I do, this was definitely shot in LA winter because it's rainy and windy in one of the shots and everything. I was like, LA winter. So I always loved January and February in LA because it's like fall everywhere else, but it's rainy and cold, and I like that.
Yeah, you can clearly tell because Stoney looks cold as fuck. He looks super, and the steam coming out of his mouth or whatever. But there's a really funny moment when Sam is on a payphone trying to get answers from people, and Stoney's on a payphone trying to get answers from people. And there's a phone that separates the two of them, but they're talking so loud. They're clearly talking over each other. Yeah. And you can barely hear what the two of them are saying because they're talking at the exact same time. It's hilarious because I'm sure the people on the other I'm sure there's nobody on the other end, but if there was, they'd probably be like, huh? What? Huh?
What's happening?
Who's talking right now? So they've been doing this all night. Sam is tired. Stoney's like, I want to make one more stop. And they drive off. It's now daytime or like early morning. Cut to a Hispanic woman walking down a staircase outside, like to a bus stop on a busy street. And she misses a bus that drives by, and she goes to the bus bench, and she sits down on it next to a dude who's sitting there. The dude slumps over, falls into the street, and he's got a slash on his throat and an X on his head. And the woman screams a hilarious scream.
And that's when Corey figured out they were saying, oh, the ex-murderer the entire time. Of course, the second time I watched it with subtitles, and I caught everything. But the first time, this is when I figured out that they were saying X and not X.
Yes. This is also the point in the movie where I'm like, oh, Stoney saying he wants to make one more stop really doesn't track or they never really follow up on that, because what happens next, Stoney will be in this next scene in just a moment. And it says, I'm sure he did not predict that woman was going to find a body from the ex-killer. Because right after that, Ed and Diego are at the scene, the crime scene now, by the bus stop, or talking to the woman who witnessed the dead body. Cops show up, and this is hilarious because Stoney is in the middle of the crime scene looking at the body, and Hoxley like pulls him away, super pissed off. And Hoxley just yells at him. He's like, "Don't touch, don't look." And he continues to like berate him, and he just tells Stoney to move out, just get out of here. And Stoney starts walking away. He looks like he's had a little bit to drink that night, the night before. And then Stoney walks up to Ed while she's trying to interview this woman who witnessed the dead body. And he whispers in her ear, he goes, "Hi." And she's like, "I'm working right now." And she wants to interview the woman. And then Stoney sees Diego, and he goes, "Hey, Diego, how you doing?" And then Diego goes, "Fine." And then Stoney goes, "Great." He doesn't care.
No, and Diego does not care for Stoney either.
No, I love it. It's so fucking funny. And then Stoney's walking away from the crime scene, and he spots a dude, and he grabs the dude at the crime scene by the hair.
By the
little afro.
Fucking hair. I felt bad for that actor because it almost seemed like they didn't rehearse that. Like he was going to grab him by his collar, but he grabbed him by the hair.
Like super violently.
Yeah.
And the dude is like, "What the fuck, man?" And he goes, "Oh, Stoney." And Stoney goes, "Jesus, how you doing?" And he goes, "Once a picker, always a picker." And Jesus pulls out a wallet like he just took it from some dude.
Because he did. He was picking their pockets while they were all watching the crime scene.
Yeah. And Stoney's like, "Hey, I want info on this dead guy." And Jesus is like, "Look, man, the dead guy was dumped here in the barrio." And Stoney says, "I want you," to Jesus. He's like, "I want you to find out some info on him for me." Cut back to another montage. And I love this. They're now at the Santa Monica Pier at the boardwalk.
Yeah, and it reminds me of One Dark Night because
totally,
when they were there, because it has the same overcast and everything, and I guarantee you they probably shot it at the same time of year and everything, but it totally looks like One Dark Night.
And it also made me like so nostalgic too, because I live super super close to the pier, yeah. and Corey and I both have been there multiple times. And it doesn't look anything like it does now.
Yeah.
It's just, it is what it's like. That was 1983. It's 40 years later, practically. So this is a great montage, though, because Sam's talking to a fisherman to get some info. And then you cut to the arcade, which is still there. And there's a dude playing a video game called Thief, and which is funny because you get the sense like Stoney's goes up to the dude, and maybe the dude was a thief at one point. Stoney walks up to the guy while he's playing the video game and just starts pushing the buttons of the guy's game.
This guy's is fucked up.
Fuck up the game. And then he yanks the guy away from the game. He's like, "Come on, Jerry." And the camera pans over to marionettes doing like a puppet show.
Yeah, a little
it's
weird.
Weird.
Yeah.
Weird. Then you cut to Stoney at an ice cream shop. I'm sure this was like Wing saying, the director trying to figure out what scene they were going to do next. And Wings like, "I feel like ice cream. Let's go shoot in an ice cream shop." Wings is eating ice cream with a cop. And the cop's like, "Look, man, I don't want to get involved. Hoxley will have my ass," or something like that. They're just having this back and forth banter.
Which I like. It's
great.
You get nothing from it, but the dialogue, but that's awesome. Like you can tell like he knows this beat cop, and it's just it's cool. This little scene is awesome because it doesn't go anywhere, but you do get the sense that Stoney knows the guy.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of dialogue in this. You do know that they're on the hunt to get info.
Exactly.
It's just funny that it got interrupted by the woman witnessing the murder.
Right.
You feel like this montage should have kept going from earlier when they were on the payphone.
Yeah. I thought, it's weird that it didn't just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't. Yeah, just editing, whatever. But this is funny because you you cut from the ice cream shop to Stoney and Sam walking past a shoe store. And then you cut to see the ex-killer, the ex-murderer, walking out of a women's bathroom and cleaning off a knife. And you pan over to the bathroom, and there's a woman murdered in the bathroom with an X on her head.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, this is part of the montage? Cool.
Yeah, okay. It's not a fun montage. And then you also get a shot where Stoney and Sam are walking into like a shoe store or near a shoe store. And there's a lady and her kid right next to the door. And she's clearly not an extra or something because she looks at them and then just immediately looks right into the camera lens.
It's hilarious. Yeah, and then you cut to like Stoney coming out or going into a club called the Plantation Club. And then Plantation Club.
Yeah, I noticed that, yeah.
And then he's walking out of a nudie bar. And you're like, oh, this is Wings like, I want to go to a nudie bar. Come on.
And it almost looks like the same one is outside, at least, as Vice Squad.
Yeah, it probably is.
It probably is, yeah.
Because this is only a couple years after Vice Squad, right? Vice Squad was like 81, I think.
Yeah, it's only a couple of years after.
And then this is another funny moment because still part of this montage, you cut to Stoney slamming a guy up against a wall, yelling at him. He's like, I'm not going to bust you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bust you. From there, Sam and Stoney are in the car. Stoney's saying, Ed only has gotten crank calls from every crazy in town. And then he's like, I want to go back to La Cocina. And they're driving back to the barrio, I'm assuming, again. And Sam's like, we got zero. And then suddenly they spot Jesus, and Stoney calls Jesus over to their car. Jesus looks in the car over at Sam, and he's like, "Who's the old dude?" Stoney goes, "This is my dad." like deadpanned. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know you had a dad." He's like, "Yeah, get in, right?" So they pick up. Jesus gets in the backseat of the car, and Jesus is like, some chick named Maria, she's a $20 whore. She was with the dude who killed, was killed, the guy who at the bus stop. His name is Warren Stugo. And then Sam looks over at Stoney. He's like, don't pay him yet. And then Stoney slaps Jesus.
And seriously, slaps him hard. Where again, I don't think he rehearsed that. Or if he did, he slapped the actor harder than they intended, because that guy was definitely the actor looking at Wings Hauser, the actor, in the eyes, I will fucking kill you,
I know. Cut. Why the fuck did you do that to me, man? Yeah. Look, I'm sorry, but it looks great on camera. Trust me.
And it does. It actually does. This scene is actually really fucking good. And this is the theme of this movie. The kid who plays Jesus is fantastic. I didn't write down his name, but I did look him up really quick on IMDb. He's been working ever since. He's still
That's
working
great.
today. So he clearly has something. I think the casting director of this movie should get major props.
Oh, for sure. Again, like we've been talking about the whole time, grade A acting in a B-level movie.
Yeah, and it elevates the entire film to what it is, the best Wings Hauser movie that we've ever seen.
Right. So Jesus gives a little more info on the prostitute, saying she tricked the dead guy and took him home. And from there, Sam and Stoney are by themselves now. Jesus, they must have let out Jesus. They drive to downtown LA and they find Maria. Maria is the $20 whore Jesus is referring to earlier.
And by the way, Maria is beautiful.
And she seems to be still working to this day too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's been in a lot of stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's a funny comedian, by the way, named Pablo Francisco, who does a whole bit on kind of similar character that this Maria is. My baby, no, my baby. Anyways, it just made me think of it whenever she talks. So they pull up next to Maria on the street, and she asks, she's like, hey, she says to Stoney, she's like, you want a date? And Stoney says, maybe you take us both on.
Yeah, this is wild.
She's like, can you take us both on for $20? And then Sam goes, can you perform miracles? And she's like, I'll make the dead rise. Step into my pew, baby. So they park the car. Like, I'm like, holy shit. Are we like alluding that they're going to have a three-way or something?
Run a train on her?
Oh, God. This is hard. I do not want to picture this.
Yeah, with old-ass Sam, yeah.
You're right. So Sam parks the car, and you cut to the killer is watching them, like maybe from a parking lot across the street, you know, something that's fenced in. He's like lurking, watching them. As soon as they get out of the car, they walk over to Maria and they start interrogating her, and she starts freaking out, and she thinks they're cops, and she's starting to explain like her relationship with Stugo, the guy that was killed. And you see the cut back to the killer. The killer's now pulling out a rifle, like a gun to kill all of them. And she's like not giving up a whole lot of information. And Sam's hard on her. He's like, well, why don't we talk it over at immigration?
Yeah, Sam's a bit of a dick. I was like, that's a bit of a dick move to like, yeah. I thought that was a little bit of a dick move.
And as soon as he says that, she's like, oh no, my baby.
Yeah.
He's inside. And he's like, and then Stoney goes, well, why don't we go see your baby? Come on. And so they start walking towards this nearby church. And she's like, don't take him from me, please. And you see the cut back to the killer. The killer's got POV shot of his scope on the three of them, Sam, Stoney, and Maria. And then he's about to pull the trigger and kill one of them when a bus pulls in front of the gun, so he can't get a good shot. Bus drives away, and the three of them are now inside the church. The three of them go upstairs in the church to go visit Maria's baby. And she's holding the baby, and she's like, look, checking on her baby, and she starts revealing that Stugo is a regular of hers. She's like, I got a baby. I got to make a living. I don't kill no tricks. And then she starts talking about how Stugo was a weird guy, but he paid cash. She's like, he paid cash, no food stamps.
Yeah, and he just paid cash to watch her change her panties, and that was it.
Yeah. And they start pushing her hard, again, they're like, we're going to take you to immigration or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, like Sam pushes the hardest, like he's the biggest dick here. But at the same time, it was his granddaughter,
Yeah, which is totally understandable because he wants to find out who killed her. And she gives him all she's got, and Stoney gives her some money, and they leave. As they're leaving, the ex-murderer is in the doorway of the church, and they walk right past him. They even say like, excuse me.
Yeah,
right?
I think that was so fucking cool. Like
it's really cool.
Like I'm in my head, I'm picturing another movie where that happens, where the people are chasing a killer and they go past him. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I always like shit like that. That's the shit that like the viewer, we all know. We're like, oh my God. And they have no clue, but it's really fucking cool that it happened. And then, wow, what happens next is wow.
It's wild because they leave, right? Like we know now the killer's there. The killer says the Hail Mary full of grace or whatever in his mind. Like he does the thing that the four corners or whatever. I'm not religious, so you know what I'm saying.
Clearly. he does the sign of the cross.
Yeah. I'm not like that priest the other day that apparently has been performing baptisms wrong because he says like, we pronounce you baptized instead of saying I pronounce you baptized. Do you hear about this?
No.
And then the church is like, nope, all those baptisms you do didn't count because you said we pronounce you baptized versus instead of I is the ghost, is Jesus. I'm like, oh, come on.
Well, hey, spoiler alert. They're all fake anyways.
I know.
Guys and gals, that's how we roll.
That's how we roll. Sorry. I'm not an athist, but we'll tell you what happens when we die.
Yeah,
okay?
I'm not atheist either, but I ain't Catholic. That's for damn sure.
Oh hell no! I'm like, so this guy got basically his license revoked to be a priest, right? Or he had to, and all these what do you call them? Baptisms got
overturned.
And I'm like, you give a bigger shit about this than all the kids that have been raped by priests?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah, no.
Fuck off.
Yeah, this is something the Catholic Church can handle.
Anyways, apparently there's no priest on duty at this church because what happens is ex-murderer goes upstairs while Maria's holding her baby and...
Not holding her baby. She is nursing her baby when the killer strangles her to death. And I was like, holy fucking shit. We literally just saw a woman getting killed while nursing her baby. That's when I was like, that was the nail in the coffin for this movie. I was like, this movie's fucking amazing. I love this fucking movie. And I didn't want Maria to die, but I'm like, fuck, this is wild.
Nursing mother killed? Check. How you doing? So he didn't say that to Maria, by the way. Anyways, so the ex-murderer has now killed Maria. The baby's crying, and you fade out from that scene. Then you cut to what could quite possibly be one of the best scenes in the movie.
Hey everybody, Corey here. I just wanted to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
I'm John, and I'm the host of Action. Every week, I'm joined by James.
Heyo.
And Dustin.
Hello.
And each week, we review, debate, and rank a different action movie.
We're creating the ultimate list of action movies.
From awful to awesome.
So if you want to hear 3 more white guys with beards talk about action movies.
And argue about where they belong on our list.
And decide you hate us because we made fun of your favorite movie.
Join us every Tuesday, and you can find us on your favorite podcatcher.
And Steven Seagal is a joke.
Hello! La la la. I'm Adam.
And I'm Corey.
And we are the hosts of Cartwright, a Seinfeld podcast. We are breaking down every single episode of Seinfeld as we watch it, reliving this amazing show.
That's right, it's a trip down memory lane for all of us 90s kids out there. You can find Cartwright, a Seinfeld podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and Patreon.
La la la. Have you been wondering where's the beef? Well, on our podcast, Throwback Trivia Takedown, you might just find that out, as well as some other things about the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
We're a nostalgic-based trivia show that pits 2 challengers head-to-head in a duel of the decades, with categories ranging from movies, TV, and music, to slang, food, and fashion. You're sure to get the best in retro-themed trivia.
So strap on your jelly shoes, grab a Surge, and walk like an Egyptian to your favorite podcast app and check out Throwback Trivia Takedown.
I heard even Mikey likes it.
And now, back to the show.
Cut to Stoney in Ed's loft playing basketball. There's a wire hoop above her fireplace. He's playing basketball in Ed's loft with a soccer ball. And by the way, he's really shitty at playing basketball in her loft, shooting hoops.
This is not like Fletch. This is not Fletch.
Again, I think that's the Fletch connection. I'm like, he's playing soccer ball. Fletch is like, we're going to get this right. Cut to, and Ed's watching him. She's like on the couch or on her bed with the cat on the bed. And Ed's smiling at Stoney. Stoney thinks he's so fucking cool. He's like trying to spin the ball on his finger, but he can't. So he does that thing where like you like halfway spin it, but then you catch it with your hand. And he's got like a smirk on his face, like, I'm so fucking cool. He walks over to Ed, and you realize that like Stoney's just once again barged into her home. And he's like, I just came by to tell you, you never have to get dressed up for me. And she's like, oh, thanks. And Ed says, she's like, I have a date. And he goes, a date? And he goes, no, we're going to play some one-on-one with a soccer ball, right? He's like, just like we used to back in the olden days. And she goes, forget the old days. And Stoney says again, where are you going? And she goes, I got a date. I'm like, didn't she just say that?
Yeah.
And she goes, it's a pre-interview dinner with Joshua Adams at the Canfield Institute. I want you gone from my house. I don't want you here when I come back. And she leaves, right, with him still there. She leaves, and he picks up their cat, Fats.
Fats the cat.
And then he's holding Fats, and he looks at Fats, and he goes, Fats, I did you the best favor of your life when I had you neutered. And then he hugs Fats and like looks in the direction of where Ed left. And he's got this look on his face again, like when the soccer ball rolled into the street.
Yeah. Same look.
Oh my God, this scene just that scene gets me every time because I'm like, it's so ridiculous and awesome at the same time. Cut to nighttime at the Canfield Institute. Ed in her sweet little early 80s Mustang, which is probably one of the weakest looking models of the Mustang, by the way, like the shittiest version.
Yeah.
And so he's pulling into the Institute. You cut to who I will now refer to as Mr. Joshua for the remainder of this movie.
Okay.
Kind of sitting on a stage addressing a bunch of people, and he's giving like a lecture. And he says, most of us live the precise life that we are given by society. Our physical surroundings, our environment, our families, not realizing that we have the strength to reach inside ourselves and bring forth the power to change. He surveys the group of people and calls out one dude to stand and a woman to stand. And he asks the man what he does for a living. And the man says, I work in ladies' shoes. Yeah. And everyone laughs at the guy. And I'm like, oh, poor dude.
Yeah. And he's like standing very meekishly.
Meekish, yes. And he looks a little bit like the dad on Elf. Like a balding dad.
Yeah.
And he asks the woman what she does, and she says, I'm a court stenographer. And then Joshua looks at the man and he says to the man, do you have an arthritic condition? And the man says, no. He goes, then why do you stand like a cripple? Do you realize the signals you're sending? I'm frightened. I'm in pain. And then he yells at the guy. He goes, you are insignificant, sir. Only because you believe you are insignificant.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do about it? And then he looks at the woman. He goes, you have great beauty, but you hide it. Everything about you says, I will not succeed. What are you going to do about it? And she says, find the power.
Find the power.
And he goes, what power? She goes, the power to change. And then the whole crowd starts chanting, the power to change, the power to change. And it's fucking great.
Yeah.
Because it is like Tony Robbins shit, which... Look, I think Tony Robbins is fucking awesome. I think anybody that can get you excited to make a better version of yourself, great. However, people can abuse it.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Joshua.
He has so much chemistry and charisma on screen. He's awesome. And his voice, it's so good. But yeah.
Totally agree.
This scene was interesting. And I was like, okay, where is this going? But he has it. He definitely has it. Like that X Factor, you know?
Gravitas.
Yeah, exactly.
Gravitas.
Yeah. And by the way, side note, my buddy Bert, who's a patron of ours, he is a court stenographer. So shout out to all of our court stenographers out there. Bert, what's up, buddy?
And shout out to anybody that works in ladies' shoes. It's a job. Hey.
Or works in ladies' shoes, and that can't be easy. So shout out to them, you know? Because get it, they're working while they're in ladies' shoes. Get it?
Oh, yeah, I get that. Or smells ladies' shoes.
There you go.
There you go. Whatever floats your boat. So I said earlier that one of the best scenes was Stoney playing basketball with a shitty hoop above a fireplace. No, the best scene of this movie is about to happen next.
Oh, yeah. Is it the bathtub scene?
Yes. It's Stoney.
Yes.
Cut to Stoney in Ed's bathtub in her loft.
Cut to 6'1" Wings Hauser in the tiniest little bathtub, like one of those freestanding bathtubs,
cast iron tub.
Yeah, one of those things. And yeah, he looks like he's having a good time, but I definitely kind of got the feeling that on the day that they're going to shoot that, he looked down and was like, I'm supposed to get into that? Like, it's half of my size.
Not only half his size.
It's half the size of his balls.
Yes, which we're about to see in just a moment. So he's in the tub, chilling, having a good old time, smoking a cig. And then you cut to outside of the building, the ex-murderer across at a building across the street with an Uzi looking into the window of the apartment.
Yeah, and by the way, we can now see that the apartment or the loft is on the top floor, but it like clearly takes up like a quarter of that entire like floor, because I mean it's a fucking amazing. But I imagine back then you could probably, like, downtown LA was not the best place to live in the 80s. I mean, shit, guys and gals. Seriously, go watch the beginning of Terminator, and that's a great example of what downtown LA looked like back then, especially, like, on Broadway and right around there. And by the way, Spring Street is is one street over from Broadway in downtown LA. But I imagine that you could get a loft this big and everything back in 83, like for a lot cheaper than, you know, like because back then a lot of people were living in the valley and everything. So I'm sure you could get something down there for much cheaper, but get so much space. But now, right before COVID hit and everything, that became the hottest place to live in LA. And then COVID happened and downtown LA died. But before that happened, the boom, this was it. This was the area. And it's because of lofts like this. They have some amazing spaces in downtown LA. They look beautiful. And this is one of them.
Totally. I love it. If, there was a time when I was like, oh, that's where I want to live. Mm-hmm. Now I'm like, nah, I definitely do not want to live there.
No, not at all.
However, Wings is so happy where he's at in his bathtub, and right after you cut to the killer on the other outside, he starts blasting away at Wings. Suddenly, multiple bullet shots go off into the loft, shooting the shit out of the window right by Wings. Wings hops out of the bathtub. You see Wings' wango and his tango. You see his taint.
You see full butthole, and it's like, they had no clue when they were making this movie that there would be anything like HD Blu-rays and HD TVs, 62 inches. But yep, you see his balls, you see his penis, you see his butthole, you see everything.
It's everything's getting shot to shit, and you see everything. Wings is rolling all over the place. You see his bare ass. You see, he goes and grabs his pants from the sink nearby while all the shots are going off. There's glass everywhere. It's a great scene. It's super violent as hell.
Yeah.
Wings looks kind of terrified because the guy's almost dead.
Yeah, because he kind of gets grazed, like shot sort of not through the shoulder, but like grazed a bit, and he's got a cut on his head. And jokes aside, with the butthole and the balls, it's actually a pretty intense like shootout with a lot of stuff exploding around a naked actor on the ground. I mean, that's not a small thing to do.
No, and it's clearly Wings with his wangs, and he's just like, it's a great moment actually in the movie.
Yeah, it really is.
And so what Corey and I both were saying earlier, again, he's at the top of floor of this building. The killer is across the street at another building on the roof. So you cut to the next scene of shirtless Wings popping out onto the roof of the other building looking for the killer, but to no avail. Obviously, he's not going to find the killer because think about it. He's got to go all the way down those stairs or an elevator that goes slow as hell, run across the street, go all the way up to the other building. It's like we're talking like 10, 15 minutes probably would have gone by.
Yeah.
The killer's split.
Yeah.
But he does find the bullets sitting on the railing, which doesn't translate to anything, by the way. You cut back to the Canfield Institute, and Ed is having dinner with Mr. Joshua. And she's telling her whole life story and Stoney's whole life story to Joshua. How Stoney was kicked off the force for grandstanding. And Ed's like, it was impossible to live with him. And then she kind of chuckles to herself and she's like, I'm supposed to be interviewing you. And then Mr. Joshua says, listening is a lost art. She goes, in your bio, it says that you appeared out of nowhere and founded this institute on a shoestring. That became the driving force for success training. Where is nowhere exactly? And Joshua goes, nowhere is where everybody is from until they become somebody. And he's like saying this in like kind of a sultry way. And he's totally clearly making moves on Ed. And she's liking it.
Yeah, no, I think there's actually I think
a lot of chemistry.
Yeah, I think there is like supposed to be a thing here between them two. For her, it's not just like a story. I think she is actually kind of going out on dates and stuff with them.
Well, I think too. I think too that he's got a magnetic personality.
Yeah.
She's enthralled by him because he is captivating, right? But it doesn't really matter because she gets in her car. The next scene, you cut to her leaving the Institute.
Yeah.
She comes home to glass. She parks her car in front of the building, her building, and on the street, and she sees glass on the street. She looks up at her window at her apartment, and she gets up to her place, and it's just destroyed. It's destroyed. Yeah. And she hears piano playing on a shot-the-shit piano, so the notes are all fucked up, and Stoney's playing out on the piano.
Now, I will say this real quick. I did notice that the walls, since they couldn't put bullet holes like in the walls, they put fake walls in front of the walls, but they kind of didn't do it like, like a full-on job. And they don't kind of go all the way to the ceiling. They're just like pieces of wood painted white, like in front of the walls. But that's all that has the bullet holes. Like the bullet holes aren't in the concrete behind it. I was like, it's fine, no big deal. But I was like, I see what you did there. You just put the fake walls in front of the old walls.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious actually. Yeah, you're like, oh, this is what happens when you're on a shoestring budget. I guess.
Yeah.
And Ed is pissed.
Yeah, she's not happy.
She's so pissed, and then Stoney's like, somebody's trying to kill me, and then she goes, well, don't look at me. And then she goes, thoughts crossed my mind though. And then she goes, Stoney, I can't live like this again. And then he totally ignores her, and he just starts talking about he's on his own like stream of consciousness. He's like, this wacko knows I'm looking for him, and I got him scared. He follows me here. Look, I'm sorry about the loft, all right? And then she's in the other room, like a joined room, and changing her clothes now, like taking her dress off and then putting on like a nightgown. And she's like, how many people want you killed in this town? 10, 20? And she walks over to him with her dress in her hand, not a towel, and she starts he's covered in blood and like cuts all over his body. She starts wiping the blood off his body, and he's like, ow, on his shoulder with her dress.
Yeah,
like,
that's weird. Yeah.
That's weird. And then she's like, hey, now how many people want you killed? And Stoney's like, only Ashley, but he doesn't have the guts. And she kind of is like down by his legs now. He's sitting down. She kind of kneels down in front of him. And he's like, hey, can you rub a little bit lower? Which is, again, like a Fletch line,
Yeah.
And she's like, stop it, Stoney. And he keeps flirting with her.
Because he's got all the adrenaline, man. He's like, he feels good to be alive. He wants to fuck.
Yeah, so he's still got blood on his body.
And he's still got a wound. He's still got the shoulder wound thingy.
From the glass,
yeah.
right? And she's like, stop it. And he's like, no, you stop it. And she's like, no, stop it. And then they start making out.
Yeah.
And he like won't give up on her. And she finally gives in, and they fuck.
Yeah. Well, did you notice that when she does give in, she puts her face into like his wound,
She got blood on her face
She got blood on her face and everything. Yeah. And then cue sex scene. And I was like, yeah, Zach, yeah, give me a sex scene. This is awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I feel like, I will say this. The movies that we've picked over the past 2.5 years have had a lot less sex scenes than I originally envisioned podcasting After Dark to have. But I was like, oh, right, sex scene. And then they go have sex in a hammock. And I'm like, that can't be comfortable, right?
It's a very uncomfortable scene, actually, because you get more shots of his ass.
And then
like expressions of her face kind of looking pained, like, I mean, like into it but not into it.
I mean, Wings Hauser is definitely naked, the actor. She is definitely naked, and their genitals are definitely right next to each other.
They are, and he's having a good old time. At least it appears that way.
Yeah.
And the music is so cheesy.
It's so cheesy,
it's like a woman
but so
singing, like,
good.
So good. She's like, I can't find it.
So
I can't find it.
It's awesome.
Something like that. Oh, God. So, nice long sex scene for Corey.
Yeah, thank you.
From there, you cut to like the rooftop parking lot of the Hotel Bonaventure.
Yeah, the Bonaventure Hotel.
And it's really cool, actually. Like, it's like there's a park up there, and there's a woman leaving. She's like a maid at the hotel, and she walks past a couple making out, and she like kind of berates them for making out.
On the yard, like on the hill, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah. And then as she walks past them to kind of go home, she gets killed by the ex-killer.
Yeah, that's
ex-murderer.
Yeah.
Crime scene the next day at the Hotel Bonaventure. You hear the police and the reporters announcing her name's Janine Strand. She's a maid there. And Ed is there with Diego. And Huxley walks over to Ed. He's like, Mrs. Hooper. He goes, I understand. And they kind of have like a little back and forth talk. He goes, I understand there was a shooting at your place the other night. And she kind of blows it off. She's like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of violence in this town. And Huxley says, you tell your glory boy he's worn out his welcome. And she says, so why does a black and white to a gold badge in 4 months make him a glory boy? Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Like alluding that he's jealous.
Yeah.
And Huxley gets pissed and he's like, look, I want you to get him on a plane tomorrow, Mrs. Cooper. Like he goes back to calling her, like, I'm assuming he was calling her by her maiden name earlier.
Yeah.
Now he's calling her by.
I did notice that he called her Hooper earlier, and it was even in the subtitles. So that's not her name. So yeah, maybe that was actually her maiden name, or what she goes by on the news or something. Which is weird that it would be so close to Cooper too. You know.
And again, that's why I think they called him Stoney Jackson in the beginning of the movie. I'm like, wait, I think they fucked up the lines, but whatever. It's not whatever. So she's like, well, if I get him out of town, can I get a story on what happened here? And he goes, Huxley like looks at the crime scene. He goes, what? She's dead. And he just walks off. And then she walks into the crime scene with Diego by Lopez, and Lopez tells her to leave. And she goes, Huxley said it's all right. And Lopez goes, he did? And then he walks off to go check in on Huxley.
Because they don't know, they're not releasing that it's an ex-killer, right? Like, or it's an ex-killer. So she wants to confirm that it's an ex-murder on the forehead, right? That's why she goes and lifts the cover off?
I think so, yeah. And I love this scene. I actually love this scene on a few levels because she wants to get the scoop. And then in any kind of cliched cop movie, the cops would have just let her in and that would have been it. But Lopez leaves to go check to see, like follow up to see if she was telling the truth or not. And they get in, she's like kind of rushing Diego to get in to take some video footage of Janine, and they pull back the sheets to reveal the X on her head.
And her frown.
and her frown. And they put the camera on her.
Frown.
And Lopez walks up. And I love this because Lopez is like, don't do this again. And he grabs the point of view is from the camera shooting the footage, and he puts his hand on the camera to push it away. I love that.
I do too, because you don't realize that we're actually viewing Diego's camera until he puts his hand on it. And it's actually a fun little bait and switch. You think it's the omniscient camera of the movie, but it's actually Diego's camera because Lopez looks right at the camera and puts his hand on it. It was a fun way to make what could have been just a mundane scene a bit more interesting.
Yeah, totally agree. From there you cut to the news station, and Stoney's now with Ed, and he says, look, I'll make a deal with you. I'll give you what I got, and you give me what you got. And she goes, well, I don't have too much. And she starts talking about Stugo and Strand, Janine Strand. So like out of the 16 people that have been killed, they only are bringing up the last 2 that were killed. Well, they don't even bring up Maria, by the way.
Yeah.
They just bring up Stugo and Strand, which is really interesting. And also it's a little bit of a fail on the writing, because it's like they never determine why these 2 stand out more than the others.
Right. Yeah.
They never specifically called that out, but that's maybe one of the few things that I kind of criticize in this movie. In like a more of like, I wish they would have fixed that versus, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Ed reveals that Strand has a husband who's in Soledad prison for armed robbery. And she's like, there's no motives, there's nothing. And then Stoney starts saying this whole thing is random. He goes, scattered psychos use patterns. So maybe crazy isn't so crazy.
Well, no, hold
Maybe
on. I apologize. He says psychos use patterns. That's how they talk to the world. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
But he's like, there's no pattern. So it's almost as if it's random. Maybe they're trying to cover something up. He actually figures it out in this dialogue right here, but he doesn't know that he figured it out. And I only realized that on the second viewing, but he actually says the entire plot right here, but he just doesn't know that he did.
Yeah, because the plot gets repeated a few more times in the movie. But this is the first time it happens, and you're like, oh, this is starting to make sense, right?
Yeah, which is basically, he's like, what if it's not random? What if the killer is hiding his victims by killing these other random people? So meaning like some of the people aren't random, the other people are, and it's to kind of cover up the fact that there is a connection. And he says it better than I just said it, but he basically says what the plot is right here in this line.
Totally. And then so Stoney decides Stoney figures that they need more info, and he's like, maybe I'll get Sam to break into Hoxley's office and rip off the files of every victim and suspect. And then the phone rings, and it's a woman on the phone, and Ed picks up the phone. There's a woman on the phone named Deborah. She needs to talk to Ed. She's like super frantic about it, and she tells Ed to meet her at the security office at the Hollywood Pacific Studios, and hangs up. Ed and Stoney go to the studios to meet Deborah. It's deserted when they get there, and they start looking around, and they wind up in like the warehouse kind of
a prop house
area.
Yeah, it's a prop house. Yeah, and I've been to a prop house before when I worked at the photography studio. They're fun because you get to go in there and rent something or whatever. But there's a bunch of crazy shit in here. It's really neat. I thought it was a lot of fun.
It's really fun, and actually this scene is kind of funny because they're looking for her. They're looking around. And he kind of flirts with her, and she's like, Stoney, stop, or something. And the next thing you know, she goes into like this little dollhouse room, and she sticks her face out, and she's flirting with him. And then they kiss, and they not only kiss, but it is like a passionate kiss.
You see the actress like stick out her tongue, ready for Wings Hauser's tongue.
Yeah, it's kind of sexy, actually.
Yeah, I agree. And then they hear something, and like Stoney's like, I don't know if it's her friend or the killer, but somebody's here. And then we get this weird shot of Ed looking through the fake doll window. She's like,
really funny.
She's
actually.
like looking around. It's silly. I would have completely cut that shot right there.
Yeah, and it's really funny, actually. I'm glad they kept it in because it's ridiculous. And you see that the ex-killer is there.
Yeah. Well, you also see when he goes up, when Wings goes upstairs, you can see the ex-killer's cap sticking, like the tip of his cap sticking out from behind the shelves or whatever.
Yeah, it's really funny. So they're like on the ground floor. They're going up the stairs. Suddenly, Ed gets scared by a meowing cat, and Stoney turns to her, thinking, it's just a cat, with his gun drawn though. And suddenly out of nowhere, the killer jumps onto Stoney, and they start battling.
Not out of nowhere, because you could see his cap the entire time. And I don't think, and that was definitely not the killer. Like, that was clearly like blocking, like that was a shot blocking problem,
Yes, totally. So when he tackles Stoney's gun falls onto the ground floor, and they're again on the second floor. Ed is kind of freaking out. The killer runs away from Stoney. Ed picks up a piece of like a 2x4 and goes to whack the killer with the 2x4, but he shoves her into a cargo net that's nearby, and she falls. It's got a bunch of dummies in it, and it's got a dead Deb.
Yeah,
Deb is there.
Yeah, friend. And the killer takes that shot to the stomach, with the board, the 2x4, and just tosses her aside. I was like, Ed, you got to work on those arm muscles, girl.
Yeah, she's not a badass in that way.
No, especially because she starts freaking the fuck out because her dead friend is in that weird net thing with all the mannequins.
Stoney,
help me, Stoney!
It's really funny, actually.
Dead.
It's kind of annoying,
she's
but
not
funny.
going to hurt you. She's dead. Just chill.
Yeah, it's just dead body. Come on, you see those every day.
I will say that whole thing moves a lot and everything when Stoney tries to get her out. The actress who plays Deb never blinks. I watched the entire time, and she never blinks. I was like, good job, girl, because there's a lot of movement going on in that net where she's at.
No, I totally agree. So, Stoney like kind of runs after the killer, but then he comes and helps Ed. Ed's freaking out, and he's like, jump over me. Like he throws her over his shoulder to pick her up. And it's funny because he's kind of annoyed with her. He seems like he's annoyed with her.
Well, yeah,
one of the first of many annoying times for her.
Yeah, when she's like, "Oh, what about Deb?" And he's like, "Leave her. Who cares? She's dead. We gotta go.
Dead.
We got this guy. Like we gotta go chase after him."
Yeah, he says, "I don't think she's in a traveling mood."
Yeah.
So they get in Ed's Mustang, which is about to get trashed.
I got to call this out. So they get down onto the street by the Mustang, and Wings Hauser, the actor, by their car. The killer comes driving by trying to take out Wings or Stoney. Wings, the actor, does his own stunt, jumps out of the way onto the hood of the car very ungracefully, and then his gun kind of fires like by accident almost, like, and then he slides off and kind of lands on his knees and gets in the car, and they drive off. But I was watching, I was like, it's not graceful, but at the same time, that's actually what makes it cool, because Wings is doing the stunt, and so you can kind of put the character Stoney in his place, and yeah, he dove out of the way, he kind of fired off a shot by accident, slid down. It wasn't, I don't know, man, this is cool. Like, it's cool that it wasn't, all right, we see so many action movies today that shot right here, this was just one take. This is just one camera setup and take. We would see 30 different camera takes as the actor jumps through the air in slow motion, lands on the hood of the car, pulls out his gun, fires off a couple shots. Like, that would have been at least 6 different camera angles. But here, because of budget, yada, 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 Wings has to do his own stunt. He's probably like, I'm fine, I can do this, no problem. And it's not beautiful. But therein lies the charm of it, to be truthful with you. And yeah. I was just impressed that he just did his own fucking thing, you know?
No, I agree. And in fact, like he's much more humanistic.
Yeah.
You know, especially at the ending of this movie as well.
Where he gets fucked up.
Yeah, he does. He kind of gets fucked up here too. So so a car chase ensues right after this. And as Stoney and Ed are driving, like Stoney's shooting at the car to try and, basically take out a tire or something. And Ed's like, you're not a cop anymore, Stoney. And he's like, I don't need a badge. I hit him.
Yeah.
And then the killer, the murderer, parks his car in front of the Canfield house, gets out of the car, like kind of hobbles in, hops a fence.
And you can tell he shot, like he did shoot him, like he did hit him. And you can see the back of the windows and everything,
Yeah. So he's injured. Stoney and Ed continue to drive into the Institute because the gates of the Institute open because people are now leaving.
Yeah.
By the way, this is Tuesday. I'm just going to leave it. I'll tell you why I think it's Tuesday in a moment. Or I think it could be Tuesday. We'll find out. So anyways, the gate opens. People are leaving because maybe Joshua had an event that night. Stoney drives up the driveway while cars are leaving, so he's almost hitting cars along the way. He barrels the car in. There's a giant sculpture on the lawn in front of the Institute, and he knocks the sculpture over, which is hilarious. Before the sculpture, you cut to Joshua letting people out of the Institute and saying, "See you next Tuesday."
I didn't pick up on that the first time. Then you sent me a screen cap with the subtitles on, and I laughed, and I was like, yeah, because they wrote that dialogue on purpose. Like, there was no reason to say that. I was like,
Of course they did. I'm like, this is that phrase has been going around since 1983. Cool. By the way, if you don't know what we're talking about, why are you listening to Podcasting After Dark?
Acronym it. You'll figure it out.
Please see you next Tuesday. So anyways, that's when Stoney pulls up, horns honking, drives over a sculpture, just destroys. He doesn't give a fuck about this guy's house.
Why would he care?
Security rushes the car.
And I like how he's like, oh, it's cool. It's cool security. The ex-murderer is here. And they're like, okay,
yeah.
They don't
He doesn't
stop
say
him.
he's a cop.
Yeah.
He's like, the ex-murderer is here. And they're like, oh, okay. Suddenly they're all with him now.
Yeah,
he's
they're
like
on his
leading the
side.
pack. They don't know who this guy is.
Yeah,
right?
ironically, he's going to stomp and kill most of these guys later.
Yeah, and he's like telling everybody what to do, by the way. It's hilarious. And then Joshua's, like, oh, I'll call the police. And Joshua takes Ed with him to keep her safe, I suppose. Now there's cut to the killer limping around the house. He's like trying to climb up onto the roof of the house. Again, another roof shot of It's like they love their guys jumping up on roofs. Stoney and the security officers are looking for the killer. They haven't found him yet. Cut to Ed with Joshua in his like private room, and he's taking care of Ed. He's put a washcloth on her head, and
he startles her with it. Did you notice? Like he comes up behind her with the washcloth, and when he puts it on her head, she's like, "Oh!" She's kind of
because again, she's not used to seeing this kind of intensity violence, and intense violence, and he goes to pour her a drink, and he's saying, "Dynamic personalities always attract trouble," because he wants to get in her pants.
Of course,
he's totally the guy who's like. He's the dude he's the guy in Witchboard who wants Tawny Katane back.
Of course.
Cut to the killer on the roof now. Then you cut back to Joshua saying that Stoney is lucky to have you, Ed. And Ed's like, he's not lucky. He doesn't have me or something like that.
Yeah.
Suddenly cut back to the killer. Killer like knocks a tile off the roof. Joshua hears the sound. He says, I'll go check. I'll go find out what that sound is. And he grabs a gun from a drawer and he leaves Ed alone to drink. And she's pounding her drink, by the way. She's like, yeah. It kind of makes sense though, because she's seen some shit that is she's seen a dead body. She's laying next to a dead body.
She was in a high speed car chase. She was shot at. I mean, dude. Yep. Well, she wasn't shot at, but her boyfriend was shooting. Her husband was shooting.
Car chase that she could have died into.
Yeah.
Ed's got her eyes closed practically, and the killer is like looking in the room at her. He gets into the room. Joshua's going downstairs of the house. He hears Ed scream. He runs back up to the office room. The killer's trying to kill Ed, strangle her, but then Joshua shoots the killer. Stoney rushes in immediately and throws the killer off of Ed. The killer's dead, but Ed looks like she passed out, and he's cradling her like a baby.
Yeah, I thought she was dead at first.
I thought she was dead too, yeah. And then Joshua was in shock. He's like explaining the whole reason why he shot the killer, but he's like so dumbfounded. It's like, it was an impulse. I wasn't even thinking, something like that.
Well, the second time I watched it, though, I noticed that when he, goes to plug the killer like looks at him. He's like, no, the killer says no because we're going to know that they know each other, but we don't know it right now. So again, this is one of those movies where you do actually get more out of it on multiple viewings.
Yeah, totally. And it doesn't take anything away. It makes it even better. So from there, you cut to Sam at the police precinct, and Hoxley's office is empty. Lights are off. Sam breaks into the office. He's disguised as a police officer.
And they don't even tell you how he got that. And you know what? I don't care. I love it. I love it, and I'm fine with it because this feels like a TV show, which is, in a good way, because you just don't care. You just suspend your disbelief and you go with it.
Not only that, but, they just, quote unquote, killed the ex-murderer. So every cop in town is probably at this crime scene now.
Yeah.
Right? So this tracks why would the precinct's empty. Probably empty.
Yeah.
And Sam spends quite a bit of time actually stealing the files. This scene goes on a little long, but it is what it is. It just shows that Sam can break into anything.
Yeah, and he uses his lockpick and picks the locks. Yeah.
Cut back to Canfield. Hoxley is with a random detective who's like proudly identifying that the killer was missing 2 fingers. Yeah. He's like really happy about it.
Well, it's the coroner, and he's like, that explains why we never got a full print and full match. But it is weird because the missing finger thing really doesn't come into any kind of a play in this whole movie. It's not necessary at all. It's not like The Fugitive. They're not like searching for the killer with, missing 2 fingers or something. It's nothing like that. But it's fine because it actually adds a little bit of, makes it a bit more interesting. But I will say, I did fucking pause the movie and check the time, and I'm like, we still have 30 minutes left. I was like, okay, there's still, something else is still happening,
Yeah, because Stoney like looks totally annoyed, right? And he wants to leave with Ed, and Ed's like, "No, I'm staying. You know, I want to find out why Harvey Benton, that's his name, murdered 20 people. I want to know why." And then she's like, "What's the matter with you? Is it the reward money? You've been out of shape because you didn't capture him right." So she's annoyed with him. Stoney like just walks away from her. Huxley approaches Stoney and he's like, "I spent 6 months on this case. You walk in here with your fuck you attitude and think the money's yours? Reward money goes to Joshua Adams."
I wrote that down, by the way. You walk in here with your fuck you attitude. And you know what? I love that. I want to walk into some place with my fuck you attitude.
Right. And then Huxley starts talking to Stoney about Ashley, starts giving him some shit about it. And then you cut to Ed and Stoney driving home. They're in the car, and Ed starts asking about Ashley. Stoney's like, "Ashley Maynard, he might be upset about the reward money, but I can handle it." Suddenly, out of nowhere, Ashley shows up in like a giant hoopty.
Yeah.
And he's trying to chase and knock Stoney and Ed like off the road.
Yeah, and even Stoney's like, "Oh, fucking Huxley must have called Ashley like right away."
Yeah, that's smart. That's a good throwaway line, but it's important.
But it was
great.
important. I'm glad they put it in there.
Again, like screenplay writers should pick up on this shit. It's like all you got to do is throw one little line in there and it wraps everything up. You don't need a whole ton of exposition, right? And at this point, I'm like, "Oh, here's car chase number 2."
Yeah.
So now Ed's car is like getting trashed.
Oh, it was already trashed. Yeah.
It was trashed before, and it's getting more trashed now. And Ashley's shouting so they're driving down the road, driving the downtown LA. And Ashley's shouting, screaming at Stoney. He's like, "I gave you 2 weeks. Time's up." They're screeching back and forth, and Ashley's shooting at them, but he can't get a good shot. And they drive through like the warehouse district, and Ed and Stoney see like a driveway up into a warehouse. And Ed's like, "We're not going to make it." And Stoney's like, "We're going to make it. We're going to make it." And they drive through the warehouse, and they drive through a roll-up door, the other side of the warehouse, right?
And there's people working in there. Like, what a night.
Right, it's just getting worse. And Ashley's driving right behind him. He tries to follow them, but when he drives out through the other side of the warehouse, he dodges a car that almost hits him and flips on his side, screeches to a dead halt, and like a big board comes through and destroys Ashley. And Ashley is dead. Yeah. Oh, that just wrapped up that storyline.
Yeah, no problem there. I guess his buxomy lady is going to have to look for somebody else.
She's too busy still watching her porn, eating popcorn. So.
Eating popcorn, watching
As one
porn.
does, apparently. I don't know. From there, you cut to a very fucked up, trashed Mustang parked in front of Sam's house. Stoney and Sam are laying on a bed together, looking through the files that Sam stole. Stoney's bothered by the whole thing, and Sam's like trying to make him feel better. He's like trying to give him a drink, and he's like, "I don't need that." And then Ed walks in.
Well, because Stoney's like something like everything's like all wrapped up in a nice bow, and why do I feel like dog shit? Because like something's nagging at him. This was just too easy. All of this was just too wrapped up and simple.
Yeah, he says the killer looked like he was running somewhere, like he got where he wanted to be. Ed starts speculating. She's like, maybe Joshua was supposed to be the next victim. Stoney says, "Why would a guy run to a place with security guards?" And so Stoney starts like asking about Strand and Stanton and his husband at Soledad. And then they're looking through the files, and then they realize that Harvey Benton was a security guard at Soledad. And then Stoney's like, I want to go to Soledad. I think there's a connection there.
Yeah, because they're starting to piece something together. Yeah.
Yeah. And Ed goes, "I want to go too." And Stoney says, "No."
But she's like, "But there could be a story." And he goes, "You are a story."
And then Sam and so Stoney's up, like he's all fired up and he wants to do this thing. And now Ed and Sam are on the bed, Sam pulls Ed's head closer to him, and he pats her on the side of the head.
Yeah,
That's my
so
girl.
Ed's head is on Sam's shoulder, and then Sam's head is. I like that moment. It's such a sweet moment. And again, this is something I would love to see moving forward. I would love to see more of their relationship. I like that Eddie and Sam have a relationship, because clearly, Sam and Stoney have a relationship. I love it. I love this cute little dynamic.
Yeah, me too. From there, you cut to a little 10-person plane taking off from LAX, and they're flying again, and Stoney's complaining about having to fly again.
He's definitely the B.A. Baracus of this movie.
Oh, totally. And they go to Soledad Prison.
Hey everyone, co-host Corey here. I just wanted to take a quick second and say thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Without you, Podcasting After Dark would not be possible. If you would like to help the show grow, please consider signing up at patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. You can also support the show by purchasing one of our awesome t-shirt designs on our merch store at podcastingafterdark.com, or by picking up a copy of 7 Winters Alone by David Irons on paperback, hardback, or Kindle. Just search for 7 Winters Alone on Amazon, or click on the link in the show notes. A free way to help out is to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Those reviews are huge for us and really helps get the show in front of new listeners. Again, thank you all so much for the love and support you've given us over these past few years. It really means the world to us.
So Stoney and Sam are now at Soledad Prison, and they're getting ready to talk to Lester Strand, who's Janine Strand's husband. It's the dude from Escape from Alcatraz. I'm like, holy shit, this guy is such a classical actor too.
And he's fantastic, by the way.
So good.
Another fantastic actor in this movie.
Totally. Stoney and Sam are waiting in the interrogation room, and Strand walks in. He goes, "I smell cop," and he looks at Sam. He goes, "You're an old con. That's easy." And then he looks at both of them. He looks at Stoney. He's like, "What do you want?" And then what does Stoney say? "How you doing?"
How you doing?
I'm like, fucking, oh my God, with your line, you got to get your line in, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
That it's number 6 or 7 of the movie. And Strand goes, "My time." Strand asks again. He's like, "What do you want?" And Stoney says, "The SOB who killed your wife." And Strand says, "They got the dude. He was a screw in here."
Yeah.
And Stoney starts speculating that it wasn't him. And he's asking about Stugo. And Strand says, that Stugo used to cut hair in the prison. He was like a civilian when he became the barber, when Mickey the barber was shivved. And then Stoney goes, "The same guy who killed him," I'm assuming Mickey the barber, "killed your wife." And I'm like, how do you know that? Where do you make that connection?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a little loose too. I'm
yeah.
like, okay, that's a little too neat. And then Stoney asks about Benton. Strand goes, "Dude was a screw." And Stoney asks for something more. He's like, "Give me something more, something I don't know." Strand says, Benton was buddies with a con named Fulton. Says he's a cat who had his own machine. The warden left him alone. Said Fulton, he'll make model cons out of all hard asses. Stoney asks if he was a preacher. And Strand says, "Oh, hell no. But the dude had control, had screws running errands for him. And if he didn't cop to his program, one of his boys would visit you and zip." And he points at his eye. And Sam goes, "I can't believe cons would let a dude like that, a guy like that, stay alive." And Strand smiles and he goes, "Yeah, we got to his ass one night, poured 200 proof grains and blew all over him, lit up like a Christmas tree. Benton split after that. Couple of cons were transferred. That's it."
And so I guess I didn't quite understand, but that burned body was how Fulton / Adams got out.
Covered,
yeah, that was his cover. Okay.
Yeah. This is cool because at first you're like, okay, this is a little loose, but it starts to pick up and the writing gets tighter because Stoney pulls out the newspaper of all the victims that the ex-murderer killed, and he asks them if he recognizes anybody. Strand starts recognizing, oh, that's the barber. That's a dude who used to come down from Salinas to do the plumbing. And he goes, well, that's Janine, but that's it. And then that's all he's got, right? And then Strand's like, I'm done. I'm leaving. He starts to leave, and then Stoney apologizes again. He's like, I really want to tell you I'm sorry about your wife. And Strand's like, yeah, fuck off.
Yeah, he kind of
I don't even know you.
Yeah, he kind of looks back,
Yeah. So they leave, and they start walking out of the prison, and Stoney wants more info on this Fulton guy, right? And he says to Sam, he's like, you know people around here, right? We can get some more info.
Well, it's like you got people here, right? And he's like, sure, where are they going to go?
yeah, where are they going to go? I love this and so now you cut to a black room. So it's in, you just have to assume that they're talking to some cop on the force who has some info on Fulton.
Yeah, and they do this interesting composite scenario.
Yeah, so they're looking at photos. I'm assuming they're looking at the dude from Salinas first.
Yeah.
But they don't identify it, and he goes, show me Fulton. And they put down this picture of Fulton, and it's clearly Mr. Joshua, but he's bald and has a beard.
Yeah, and it's very 1983, not even photoshopped. They had to airbrush him to give him the actor a bald head and everything, but it works. It's totally cool.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's fine. That's not a problem, and nor is the composite. But the composite is interesting as fuck because they're looking through one of those overhead projector things. It's kind of going up on the wall, and then the cop starts doing a multi-layered film, a composite, where he would have Fulton's nose and eyes, but then the beard is a different layer of that transparent film. And then he basically, and the Wings is okay, take away the beard, put on a chin. And so he actually has to physically take that piece of plastic away. Yeah. And what Wings is trying to do is essentially gets him to look and realizes that Fulton is Adams, is Mr. Joshua.
Yeah, the composite, that scene is really cool.
Yeah, it is.
I was just hoping if they would do it slightly different with maybe the Mr. Woolley, that little thing, the bald guy
I know what you mean.
with the magnets. Yep. That would have been even better. Just saying.
But it's interesting, and it's unlike what I found interesting and fun about it is it's unlike anything I've ever seen in a cop movie where you always see the composites or something or drawn or whatever. I've just never seen anything like this, and I thought that was fascinating. And nowadays it's all just computers and everything, but I thought this was pretty fucking interesting.
Oh no, I totally agree. It's super interesting. It's cool how they put it all together. What's kind of more interesting though is you think Stoney realizes it's now Joshua, but what do? They cut to Stoney and Sam getting a hot dog and a soda at a nearby stand.
Yeah, they're back in LA.
They got time to get some food back in LA. And so they're not worried. At least they don't seem that worried about it. And Sam says he called the news station. He said that Ed's on assignment in the cornfields. And then you cut to Ed, and she's at Joshua's.
And I like that. It's kind of like a throwaway thing, and I didn't pick up on it the first time. But yeah, Sam's like, oh, the cornfields, and just kind of throws it away. But you're like, wait a minute. But we'll get that in a second.
Yeah, and so Ed's on the couch with Joshua having drinks, and she's there to, prep Joshua for their interview tomorrow, right? And you cut back to Stoney, and he's trying to put Stoney and Sam, and he's trying to put a connection together with the killer, with all the murders and everything. And Stoney says, Joshua covered up being Fulton by killing everyone who knew, and he killed innocents to get the cops off the scent, essentially.
Yeah.
Cut back to Joshua trying to charm Ed, and he's like, discover that power in you. Ed's seems super into it. Her eyes are she's got you know what kind of eyes on him.
Gaga eyes. Yeah,
she's got gaga
into him.
eyes.
She's into him.
Yeah. He's like, convince yourself and you'll convince others. Cut back to Stoney and Sam. And Stoney like has an aha moment and he's like, cornfields, cornfields. No, it's Canfield. Sam, it's not cornfields. She's at Canfields. But Sam's like, she's fine there. You're with a murderer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or with someone who convinced this guy to go off and kill people, the ex-murderer, right? You're with a cold-blooded killer. And Sam's like, she'll be fine.
Because at this point, doesn't Sam know that the killer is...
Yeah, but he doesn't give a shit.
She's like, she'll be fine. But Wing's like, no, she won't. She'll blab immediately.
Yeah.
It's what she does. Immediately, she'll blab.
They want to split. Yeah. Cut back to Joshua. Now he's like making moves on Ed. He's like, you admire men with strength, don't you? And she goes, yes, I do. I admire strength, not necessarily the physical type. And then he says, like your husband? And then she's like, well, sometimes he machos it up like you're doing right now because he puts his hand on her. I didn't know that putting your hand on someone else's hand is machoing it, but I get what she's saying.
Yeah, I get what she's saying.
And she goes, but this morning he had this wild hunch and he took off without me. Like I was some idiot child that couldn't play in the adult world. And he goes, Joshua goes, you certainly aren't. You're wonderful, Eddie. And they cheers drinks. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. This is like, once again, their pants so bad. Stoney and Sam show up at Joshua's on the side of the road, and they sneak into like side gate, right? And there's a security guard at the side gate, and Stoney beats the shit out of him. Like, beats the living shit. It goes on for, it's like a, you know, normally you like hit a guy, move on.
Yeah.
And that's like what, 2 seconds? This is like a 10-second scene where it's like, goosh, goosh, goosh.
And it starts with the guy's about to take a drag from his cigarette. And it's almost like, I don't know if this was blocked properly, but as an ex-smoker, I know that the actor, the stuntman who's about to get pummeled on, if he actually did like suck in some smoke right there, that would have sucked, you know, about to do that. But this is also the moment where I did notice Wings stomp, quote unquote, stomp, you know, him, but it was totally the ground, you know, and everything.
Yeah, it's really funny.
But if you take away the William, like we said earlier, the William Shatner style of fighting, and you actually boil down what this is, this poor guard gets his ass kicked by fucking Wings, by Stoney. I mean, Stoney fucking stomps his ass. And then takes his gun.
And if anybody's seen Peacemaker and with John Cena, and there's a scene in Peacemaker, it's not much of a spoil, where like they're infiltrating this house and they're like, you know, don't hurt the security guard. They're innocent, you know? And I think about the security guards in this. I'm like, these guys don't know what they're up to. Maybe they know who they're covering up for. Maybe they don't, but they didn't deserve to get stomped like that.
He didn't deserve to get stomped.
Because he like almost practically like curb stomps his head into the ground.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty brutal.
It's brutal. So cut back to Joshua making moves on Ed. He's like, everybody lies. Women lie when they put on makeup. I'm like, that's a stretch.
This movie's very chauvinist when it comes to the dialogue.
Then I agree with this. He goes, churches lie when they offer salvation. And then he gets really kind of intense. He goes, prisons lie when they promise rehabilitation. I'm like, oh, you're a poet and didn't know it. And Ed goes, well, that's a strange thing to say. And she goes, have you ever been in prison? And Joshua says, we're all in prison, Eddie. That's why my seminars are so successful. Suddenly they hear a crashing sound. And Joshua goes to investigate. And it's Sam who they're like in the room where Joshua does his seminars, and there's a bunch of stacked chairs. He knocks over the stacked chairs on the ground. Oops, sorry, Stoney.
Oh, Sam.
Security guards come into the room. They rush the room. This guy, Marty, and Joshua comes in, followed with Ed.
I love how you tracked the Marty, because me too. I track Marty, and I also track the amount of bullets that he plugs into Marty in a few minutes.
I know. So Marty's got a gun on Stoney and Sam. When Joshua comes in, he's like, you know, tells Marty to lower his gun. He says, Mr. Cooper, why didn't you ring the night bell? I feel like it's like a Jerry Dandridge moment.
Yeah, he's
like,
trying to be, all.
And Joshua introduces himself to Sam, and Sam introduces himself back, and then he says to Stoney, he's like, was it necessary for you both to break in here, or was Eddie in danger? And and this is when Ed walks in. She's totally pissed. She's like, Stoney, what are you doing here? Joshua says, she's doing her job, and you're acting like a fool. Ed,
Eddie says he's not acting.
Oh, yeah. Ed,
burn!
Sick burn! And she goes, what are you two doing here? And Stoney's like, wants to get Ed over to him because he knows that Joshua is a psycho. And he's acting very kind of like nonchalant about it. Like, hey, can I talk to my wife for a second? It's in private, He says, Ed, will you come over to me? He goes, talk to me before I break your arm off.
I know. So, wow.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That line, she goes, excuse me, to Joshua. And she walks over to him and he whispers to her. He's like, I want to get you out of the house. And I want you to act like everything is fine. And she's still pissed. And she's like, no, I'm not going to. And she walks back over to Joshua. And she's like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be in Soledad prison until tomorrow. And at that moment, you see Joshua's face. His eyes get big. And Stoney pulls out his .45 and points it at Joshua. And this is when Joshua has the aha moment that he knows.
Yeah.
Marty has his gun on Stoney.
Yeah,
and
Marty.
Ed looks unfazed. She's like, just looks annoyed, like, what the fuck is going on? And then Stoney calls Joshua Mr. Fulton. And Joshua says, I'm going to need your gun. This is breaking and entering. And then another guard comes in and it has a gun on Sam. Ed, again, doesn't know what's going on. She's like, what's going on here? She's acting like totally idiotic. To Stoney's, credit, he knew what that was going to happen, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
And she goes to Sam, and she's like, what's going on? And then Sam mumbles, he's like, he's Roger Fulton. And then she goes, who's Roger Fulton? And Joshua says, Roger Fulton died in prison. Stoney says, well, someone died in prison, but it wasn't Roger Fulton. And Joshua says, I'm going to have to insist on that gun. This is my house, and I have a right to protect it. And Ed goes, I feel sick. Then this is when Sam, there's a shot of Sam like pulling his lockpick tools out of his pocket. Joshua points his gun, because he has a gun, at Ed, and he tells Marty to take Stoney's gun.
Yeah, because Ed is like to his right. And he's still facing Stoney, and he kind of just moves his gun and points it like at her gut,
Yeah. Stoney says, make one more move, Marty, and I blow a hole through this man's head the size of a cantaloupe.
How often do you actually get this much to know like a goon's name, Fucking Marty, man.
It's really funny. I'm like, oh, I really want to know what Marty's fucking name.
Marty's all Marty the Goon.
Marty the Goon. And Joshua says, this is all academic. The jealous husband breaks in, shoots his wife, and one of my men shoots him. And Stoney's like, how do you explain Sam?
And Sam
goes, what does Sam say?
And Sam goes home and sleeps in his bed or something like that.
Sam goes home and gets to go to bed. That's what he said.
I love it. I love how Sam's like, I'm out of this equation, guys. And then, of course, fucking Fulton's like, no, Sam's an acquaintance. Or, sorry. And then Fulton's like, Sam's an accomplice. And then Wings is like, oh, you're so slick. You're so slick, Fulton.
You're so good. And then guns are all still drawn. And that's when Sam elbows the guard next to him. Quickly takes his lockpick tools and shoves them in a nearby outlet, which makes the power go out. And I'm surprised he didn't electrocute himself. There must have been rubber at the end of those tips.
Well, there was, because it was like a tool. It wasn't just like a bent, like paperclip or something. It was actually a tool. And this is when fucking Wings like pushes Marty and plugs him twice.
So he shoots, first Wings shoots the guard that was on Sam, kills him with one shot. Then he pushes Marty out of the way and plugs him in the belly 2 times. And the squibs are so violent that the blood just sprays out. This movie is about to get exploitative in a good way.
Yeah, but Marty gets two shots in him. He's dead before he hits the ground.
Yes. Joshua now grabs Ed, who's now his hostage.
Yeah.
And he yells at Stoney. He goes, "You had no right resurrecting Roger Fulton. I put too much hard work into killing him off." And he just takes off. There's a wail later on. There's a wail of a moment where Joshua like wails. It's like a maniacal wail. It's so hilarious. Anyways, so Sam's like, "You want me to call the cops?" to Stoney. And Stoney's like, "No, I want this scumbag for myself." And so Joshua heads upstairs with Ed to his office. Stoney follows him. Stoney's like in the hallway about to enter, but Joshua's in there with Ed and a gun to her. And Joshua says, "It's exciting to kill, isn't it? Especially a little bit at a time. How many have you killed, Stoney? 10? 20? More than the ex-murderer? How will you feel when you kill your own wife?" And he shoots Stoney in the leg.
Oh, and he doesn't shoot him in the leg. He shoots him like in the upper thigh hip area. And I was like, ooh, that's got to be painful. That's your joint and everything.
Yes, like the femur bone.
Yeah,
probably could have severed the femur. So, Stoney's shouting in pain now. And he rushes Stoney with Ed. And he's like, "I'm a very good shot. Don't think I didn't hit my aim before." And he goes out the back door of his office down the stairs, and Stoney like hobbles after them down these stairs, kind of falling along the way, running after them. They're running all over the property of his house, and they're now in like a guest house area with like this archway. Yeah. It's a darkened archway.
So Wings like comes on the archway, and you can tell that Fulton pushes Ed, so she kind of falls like sort of through the archway, and Wings and Stoney is so quick on the draw that he fires, but he kind of like pulls it a little bit to the left and hits the frame. But if you look at it, like he would have killed her if that frame wasn't there, because half of her head was behind the frame, and essentially where the bullet hit was square between her eyes, but the door frame blocked it. That was intense. I was not expecting that close call.
It's a great scene. It's a great moment, because Joshua says right after that, he's like, "Quick reaction.
Yeah.
I like a good adversary," because he was intending for Stoney to kill Ed.
Yeah.
In that moment.
Yeah. Is this when he calls for his goon to jump him?
Yeah, he goes, "It's not going to make me feel happy to see Eddie die, though. Such a waste of a classic woman." Stoney starts getting closer to them with his gun drawn. And then Stoney goes, "Either way you look at it, you're dead meat." And Joshua comes back. He goes, "Please, Stoney, no police idioms. They make you sound unintelligent." And he has his gun on Ed. And that's when he shouts, "Now!" And that's when the guard jumps out of nowhere and wrestles with Stoney. And Stoney shoots the guard in the belly. Another big squib goes off, just blood everywhere. And then Joshua yells, "Good shot!"
What a useless fucking guard, by the way.
Useless guard, but it's a funny moment because Joshua's like getting more excited as this evening is going on. And he's getting more maniacal too. He's like, "Good shot." And he starts to walk over to Stoney, because Stoney's now laying down on the ground after shooting this guy in the belly. His leg's been shot. He's probably been beat to shit all night. And he gets up in Stoney's face, Joshua does, and he says, "We could pull on this all night, Stoney. We could pull on this."
Yeah,
that's what it said.
Yeah.
And he goes, "It's very private here." And then he shoots at Stoney's head, right by his head. It's a great shot. And you like see Stoney's reaction, like he's wincing.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Think of how little there'll be left of you, and what I'll be doing to your wife when you're dead."
He's full on maniac at this point.
Now he's maniac, and he shoots at the other side of Stoney again. But then he takes Ed and he runs back up the stairs back into his office again.
Yeah, a little bit of a back and forth going on.
Yeah, it's like they're just running in the back in the same places. And Stoney stumbles back up and he starts to follow them.
And by the way, I mean, Stoney is fucked up with his leg. Like, Wings is really, he's doing a good job of trying not to put any weight on that leg. I can't imagine this was easy to do.
No. And you got to assume, in storyline, like, he's just running on adrenaline right now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, he's gonna probably be dead at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, and so this is funny because Stoney's like, it's just you and me. I'm like, actually, it's not just you and me. It's you and me and Ed.
Ed and a weird security guard who also has his face all fucked up for some reason.
That guy's gonna come up pretty soon.
Yeah.
So they're like on the second floor again. They're back where they kind of started when Stoney got his leg shot, and Joshua appears alone by this office room, and like Ed's nowhere to be seen, right? And Joshua says, "You'll come around." Here's the explanation of all that he did. He goes, once Canfield was created, certain key people needed to be eliminated. You can see the reasoning. Then Stoney asks, he's like, where's my wife? And then another guard, like what, the fourth or fifth one now, appears out of nowhere with a fucked up face.
Yeah, so he's all
Ed.
cut up and beat up, and yeah, he's holding Ed. But why is he all cut up? Did she do that to him? Was
like she scratched him with her fingernails?
He wasn't the guard that was holding Sam. He comes out and he's already fucked up. So you're wondering, like, how did that happen?
Yeah, not only that, but I'm like, what happens next is kind of ridiculous because Stoney asks if she's okay, and she's like, "Uh-huh." Like, no, she's not. No. She's traumatized.
Yeah.
And then he looks at Joshua. He's like, "I want to make a deal." What the fuck is going on? At this point, I'm like, this is going on a little too long, actually. And so Joshua says, "Oh, we both understand violence is a means to an end." And then Stoney's on one end of this long hallway with a railing kind of that leads to the ground floor.
And the railing's on his left.
Yeah, and Joshua, Ed, and this guard are on the other side. Stoney's coming closer to them. He's got his 45 in his right hand, but his left hand is behind his back.
Yeah.
Behind his back is a little 22, right? So Joshua asks for the gun, so the 45, and Stoney starts to give him the 45, and as he does, he kind of like starts to drop it out of his hand, which causes Joshua to stumble. He pulls the other gun out from behind his back and nails the guard right in the fucking head.
Fucking point blank. He just fucking takes that gun out, puts it 1 inch away from that guard's face, and blasts his brains out. That was fucking awesome.
Fucking awesome. And from right after he blasts that guy in the head, he turns the same gun to Joshua, shoots him in the neck. So there's blood spraying out of Joshua's neck at this point. Ed picks up the 45. Joshua and Stoney are wrestling and fighting each other, and they fall over the railing wall onto the first floor. Joshua gets up and runs off outside.
I mean, Jesus Christ. Like, as far as, like, protagonists getting fucked up goes, Stoney takes a beating in this movie.
Yeah, he's beat to shit. But he's not done yet because he's Stoney Cooper. So Ed runs down to check on Stoney, gives him his gun. He's now reloading the gun. I love, as you do too, seeing reloads in a gun in a movie. And she's like totally panicking. Oh my God, are you okay? And he like jerks away from her like a fucking dick. And he's like, just help me or leave me alone.
Yeah, he's kind of like a dick to her. Because I mean, but like you said, he's going on full adrenaline probably at this point. So he's just like, I'm gonna fucking kill him, He's a maniac, but he is fucked up. He's been shot in the hip. He's fucking fallen off that balcony. It's insane, dude. He is, and he's about to get run over by a car.
Yeah. So while this is going on, Joshua is on his way to go get a car to escape. Finally. And he gets in a pink Mercedes. It's a pink Mercedes, by the way. It's like a light pink Mercedes.
It's like salmon. It's like salmon colored, yeah.
I mean, regardless, it's a shitty color.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
So Stoney follows after with Ed, and he runs out to confront Joshua, but Joshua hits Stoney with the car.
He hits him and like knocks him back into the wall, and I swear to fucking God that was wings.
Yeah, it really looked like it.
Yeah.
And so that's when Joshua starts to drive off, and he's like cackling while he's driving off. Stoney miraculously is able to get up with his 45 and starts blasting away at Joshua's car and shoots the trunk of the car, which causes it to blow up.
To explode, yeah.
The car flips and explodes on the lawn of the Canfield Institute.
Yeah, so if I could just literally change one thing about this
It's
movie,
awesome.
like if anything, all I would rather have had was Stoney take a shot that was like really precise, like he took his time to do it, and I just wish that like he shot Fulton as he was driving, like just shot him and not the car. Because first off, you hit the trunk. Does the guy have like barrels of gasoline in his trunk? Like, why does the trunk explode? That's so like
Was the fuel
80s.
tank in the back of a Mercedes? I don't know.
And because this movie was such a high caliber for so long that I felt like this ending with the explosion was so pedestrian, whereas the rest of the movie was so much more elevated than it had any right to be, that I just wish the climax, well, I mean, the whole climax I enjoy, like this whole shootout, this whole everything I enjoy, it's just this 1 nanosecond moment that I'm just like,
This is the nanosecond moment, because this whole like finale is so over the top.
Oh yeah, I know, and I love every minute
like,
of it. But
it
I
just gets
why does the car explode? Cars don't explode when you shoot them in the trunk, guys.
Well, also the fact that Stoney has been able to like, he's just walking around like everything's fine. I mean, he's not like walking around like everything's fine, but the fact that he's functioning, it's really absurd in a good way, because you're like, oh my God, this is just like taking it to the umpteenth level. You're right. That explosion is just ridiculous to the highest degree. What's kind of funny is the whole time Ed is like whimpering the whole time, like,
yeah.
And then Sam strolls out of nowhere. Like, where the fuck were you, Sam?
I know.
Hiding the whole time?
Yeah, I think he was.
Thanks a lot.
I think he was.
Friend, BFF. But I don't blame him, sort of.
Yeah.
And so Sam walks up to them while they're watching the explosion. Police cars arrive, ambulance arrives. It's kind of like flashes forward a few moments later, and Hoxley shows up, and he wants an explanation as to what happened. He's like, I want to know what the hell happened here. And then Stoney, Sam, and Ed are all still together, and Stoney says, anyone want to go with Hoxley? And Ed says, I want to get you to a hospital. And Sam says, I'm hungry. And Hoxley's like, what the hell happened here? Right? And then suddenly you hear Stoney, as they're walking away into the sunset, Stoney says, all right, let's pick up the reward money, take an ambulance to the Baja, and fish for margaritas. And meanwhile, Hoxley's yelling at him. He's like, you're not going anywhere till I find out what happened here. They laugh, but before they walk off, Hoxley's like, you leave L.A. and I'll have your ass. And then Stoney says, shut up, Hoxley. And they laugh, and then the credits roll while there's a freeze frame of them with the burning going on around them. All the craziness. And that's the end of the movie with the killer song. Keep on fighting.
Keep on fighting. And I swear to God, I wish Wings was singing that song, but he wasn't.
It sounds a little bit like him.
I thought it was.
I'm like, who did this?
I thought it was him. Yeah, dude. I seriously would not change a fucking thing about this movie other than the car exploding. That was it. I would just rather have seen from a distance him fire, and then you just see all you see is blood hit the front windshield. You know, I think that would have been so much cooler as the car just rolls down the hill. You know, but I get it. I get the mentality of the time. We need the big explosion. You need the big ending and everything. But everything else about this movie was amazing. Absolutely amazing. If you've made it this far in our review, the breakdown, you know how amazing it is. I highly recommend everyone to go see it. It's at this point, it's my favorite Wings Hauser movie that we've reviewed, and I've loved every single one of them, but this one is hands down my favorite. I don't know. It might actually be one of my favorite movies that we've reviewed this season. Like, that's how much I fucking love this movie. And the cover, the movie poster, it just, nothing screams that this would have been my favorite movie. You know, nothing tells me that would have been the case, but yet here we are. And it is. And I fucking love it. And it's everything I wanted from Wings Hauser. And I can't wait for more. But right now, I am riding a high on fucking Stoney Cooper, man. Fucking what a great character. And you know what? Jack Reacher gets like 2 movies and then a series. Fuck that. Give fucking Stoney Cooper a fucking series. Do it now. Do it with Wings Hauser now. And make him, make it have him and his son or something. I don't know. But like Stoney Cooper was awesome. And I think this could have been a great fucking series. And I don't know why it didn't go that way. But it honestly, like I said at the beginning of this movie, Deadly Force did not fail Wings Hauser. We all failed Deadly Force.
Well, first of all, I love the fact that you said this might be one of your favorite movies of this season of Pad, because in many ways, as I'm watching this movie, I think I watched it 3 times when I did the breakdown for it. I kept thinking, this is what Pad is all about.
Yeah.
Right? Gore, check. A little bit of gore, right?
Yeah.
Sex, check. Sex and nudity, check.
Wings Hauser's butthole, check.
Wings Hauser's taint, male taint, check. Wango the Tango, check. Now, great dialogue, juicy characters, ridiculous moments. It's everything that we love on Pad. So I might tend to agree with you. It's definitely one of our most Pad type movies that we've done. This is a perfect definition of when people say, what is a cult movie?
Yeah.
This is a cult movie in the sense that it has so many tangible moments where most people would just write it off, but it's got such a select niche audience that would give it a chance, a highbrow audience, as far as I'm concerned, that appreciates something different. And this is what it is. This is exactly what it is. It's like, most kind of mainstream people will be like, that movie's cheesy, bullshit, stupid poster, whatever. It's got that guy that I don't like. No, our audience is like, no, this is why I listen to the show. They talk about movies that are something I would totally not even think of, but now I want to check it out. And they do, and they're pleasantly surprised, and they enjoy their asses off.
And if I gotta say, big picture, things that we want to do in our lives. If Podcasting After Dark ever gets to the point where we actually get to make a movie, I would want to make a movie that was like an homage to this. I would want to make a downtown LA, cult crime movie like this. This is exactly the kind of movie I would want to make. David, let's make it happen, buddy. Let's make it fucking happen.
Yeah, and cast... I love that idea of casting Cole Hauser in the lead, but having Wings Hauser in this movie, as his dad, but don't make him a dick. Make him like a sympathetic, cool dude.
Yeah.
Cast these guys cast them against type, because people would all expect Wings Hauser to be the dick in a movie.
Yeah.
Make him like the dad in Peacemaker or whatever. I get it. I that makes sense, but don't do that. And also cast guys that we haven't seen in such a long time.
Yeah.
That's why I love companies like Vinegar Syndrome, who are bringing attention to cult movies that would have, again, been just written off. This isn't a Vinegar Syndrome release, but they are now on the forefront of releasing movies that were forgotten, with actors who still want to work. A couple weeks ago, I was at that Pasadena Comic-Con doing a Warriors panel, and all of those actors were like, I want to keep working.
Yeah.
I'm an actor. I want to work in movies and TV. This is great. I love this business. These guys are not recluses necessarily. Some of them are.
We need more Rob Zombies of the world to cast the actors that we like, Sherry Moon Zombie aside, but you know what I mean, because he's the only guy that'll him and Tarantino are the only 2 dudes that will actually cast the old school Hollywood dudes that we all love.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, say what you will about Rob Zombie and his movies, music, whatever. If you're not a fan, that's fine. If you are a fan, that's cool too. It's all good. But you have to appreciate the fact that he's casting people that maybe can't get a job because they don't have that look that Hollywood wants anymore. Tarantino, same way. You know, before we were even talking about Martin Kove and Cobra Kai, he was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I don't care if it's a 5-second scene, he still got cast in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah. So on his resume, he can put that down. You know what I'm saying? Like, these actors they are, I don't want to say better than some of the more mainstream actors, but there's something about these guys who have an X factor.
We talked about it on the Assault on Precinct 13 episode that we just released on Patreon on the Carpenter Factor, with the main guy, Napoleon Wilson, played by Darwin Jostin. And one of the things I said on the episode is that how refreshing it is to see somebody different, because as much as I love Oscar Isaac, you know, he was great in Dune and everything. It's just like, man, I'm just getting tired of seeing him everywhere. He's a great actor, but there are so many other actors out there that are interesting and I want to see get a shot. And it's like it sucks that we just don't live in the day and age anymore where people like Jostin, you know, can actually do something. So yeah, I want to see more interesting actors. I want to see more Cole Hauser, you know. I want to see Wings Hauser pop up in some stuff. Fucking yeah, bring back Stoney Cooper as Wings Hauser, make his son make Cole Hauser be the center, you know, give him a different name, Cooper or something, you know, Burley Cooper, I don't know, it doesn't matter, but keep it going because there's something here. It's awesome. It's fantastic. I just wish that, you know, 50-60% of this movie, the actors in this movie haven't already passed away. That's the thing that sucks the most about this movie.
That is a bummer for sure, but that was kind of a nice segue though as to what you were talking about in regards to our Patreon exclusive episode of Assault on Precinct 13. For those of you that don't know, we have a Patreon page, Patreon/Podcasting After Dark. And on that said Patreon page, we have a lot of exclusive content, one of which being a new show called The Carpenter Factor. It's part of our Auteur de Force show where we chronologically discuss each one of our favorite directors' movies. And right now we are working on John Carpenter. So we started with Dark Star. The next one was Assault on Precinct 13. We will continue to do every single movie that John Carpenter has directed, specifically directed, not like just written or whatever. Yeah. And work through his movies. We do that once a month. It's a free form discussion. Yeah. However, it's our take. And if you've made it this far through our show, you know our position on movies and our kind of style, our signature. And we give it a little bit of the Z and C touch or the C and Z touch. Yeah. Depending on whether you want to go in ABC order or not. Yeah. But yeah, the Carpenter Factor is on Patreon. Mm-hmm. If you're a subscriber already, thank you. You guys rule. You know that. If you're not a subscriber, you still rule, but consider checking it out. Yeah. It's worth it. It's worth it. Honestly, if I was just a listener of this show, I would do it because I love it. It's great. It's more content. It's more content that you love. Yeah. So go check it out. Give it a chance. Give it a chance.
Yeah, we have at this point, because the Carpenter Factor is going to be blocked out for pretty much 2 straight years with us going through the entire catalog. It'll end at the end of next year, and if we just put a wrap-up show on there, it'll pretty much be in December of 2023. And then we'll move on to our next director. Could be Don Coscarelli, could be somebody we don't know yet, or could be Tarantino. I don't know, but we'll figure it out.
Mann.
But we want to essentially walk through our favorite auteurs' filmography from beginning to end. And this was something that Zach and I actually started about 6 years ago when we actually did Carpenter's walkthrough. We only made it to, I think, Prince of Darkness, but we started at Assault on Precinct 13. We didn't do the made-for-TV movies then, but that was something that Zach and I did and we loved. But we're going to do it all with Carpenter. We're going to do his 2 made-for-TV movies. We're going to do the Showtime movie with the body bags or whatever, but we're going to do it all. We're going to do every single one of it, and we're going to end with The Ward, which is his last film on IMDb. So check it out.
Yeah, we will do it all. And for those of you that that are wondering, or we still do interviews after dark.
Yeah.
It's just not a part of this is like the switcheroo we did. We switched it over to this, and we will still continue to have interviews on the show that will be exclusive to you initially, and then eventually be on the free feed.
Got to the free feed.
The free feed will now start getting some of those great interviews that we've done throughout the past few years, and then we'll continue to do more interviews. It's just this is in place of and just a different show, and it's awesome, and but it's all good stuff ultimately.
That's right. But Podcast After Dark is evolving and growing, and we're doing it because of the support from you all. We can only evolve and grow because of the support from our fans, Patreon, even the free listeners. Just, hey, you know what? Leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That's great. Tell your friends about us. That helps too. So we understand times are tough. There's a lot of free ways to help us out, and we know that you guys are helping us out because we're growing. And we also know that you're helping out all of our friends too, like $2 late fee. We know there's a lot of overlap with our listeners and our fans with $2 late fee and everything. So Zach, what do you guys have going on this month? All right, not this month. We're about done. What do you guys have going on in March on $2 late fee?
March, if you know $2 late fee already, you know that March is huge for us. It's our Martial Arts Madness month, where we fill the entire month with martial art themed episodes. So instead of releasing one episode every 2 weeks, we're releasing one every week in the month of March. We've got an upcoming episode with a director, Derek Wayne Johnson. He's the director of a movie called King of the Underdogs. It's a documentary about John G. Avildsen. If you don't know who that is, he's the director of Rocky and Karate Kid, for one. So really great discussion about our top 5 Karate Kid moments throughout the legacy of Karate Kid, the trilogy. We have an interview coming up with Jeff Speakman from The Perfect Weapon. We have an interview coming up with Don the Dragon Wilson of, New York Ninja. Most recently, his voice is of the main character, John Liu, in that. Anyways, a legendary martial artist and, icon of straight-to-video cinema. Anyways, more and more stuff coming up on $2 late fee. And it's what I love about Pad and $2 is they're my babies, they're my boys, my loves, my wives, all that good stuff. And just more and more great content for you guys. And if you like my voice, you like Corey's voice, you like Dustin's voice over at $2.
I love Dustin.
you like Adam over at Cartwright. You like all the guys in the BFOP network.
Yeah.
Thank you for supporting us. Check out the other shows that we have on the network, because they're all quality. They're all good stuff. Talking back. Action.
Blast from our past, throwback trivia takedown. It's all good
all
shit,
good stuff.
Man. I'm so proud that we're on this network with everybody, and I love $2 late fee. I love Dustin. I can't wait for our next crossover. That'll be happening again this year. It's going to be a yearly thing, and dude, this is so much fun, man. I love that we get a chance to just dive into movies like this, and I get to listen to you guys dive into movies like American Flyers and stuff like that.
That was a fun episode.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun and everything, and the interviews that we've done. So thank you all so much for supporting us, and thank you all so much for supporting our friends, and thank you all so much for supporting David and buying his books and all that kind of stuff, and supporting $2 late fees Patreon. We know we also have some multiple crossovers there too, so you guys are putting your money where your mouth is, and you're supporting us, and we love you. And I mean, that's it. We love you. Thank you so much. Seriously, thank you so much. And as always, and take Wings Hauser and put him on a pedestal so high,
and we'll catch you on the dark side too. Be sure to subscribe to Podcasting After Dark and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Support Podcasting After Dark on Patreon.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Podcasting After Dark. And visit us next time for another installment of Podcasting After Dark with Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer.